We
Uh-oh.
live?
We do it live? Okay, it looked like it broke. We are doing it live. Good.
I
I
am
pressed the button
broke
and it
though.
froze. Um, but episode 1, Star Wars. Let's do it. Let's talk about this fucking gem.
Wait, I thought we were watching the first Star Wars movie.
That is the. Oh God, this is awkward. Wrong chat. Oh man, but yeah, that shit is good. But I also think that spoilers. It might be one of the weakest out of all of the. I'm gonna say all of the six.
I disagree.
Um, out of the first six, I think I want to separate those into categories.
Mm.
For now, anyway. I think once we get to 7, 8, 9, then it's like okay, I want to tie those in as I get there.
Okay.
But I haven't watched them recently enough, and they're just different. I think that the way they're directed, the way it plays out, it just
Well, I mean,
feels
yeah, the
different.
original trilogy was directed by someone other than George Lucas, I'm pretty sure. I don't think he was directing the first three. If he was, he had help.
Hmm.
Um,
And
but
that's 4,
the
5, and 6, right?
yeah,
Okay.
and then one, two, and three. I think he directed six himself.
Okay.
Um, and then one, two, and three he directed all by himself, and he wrote the scripts without help.
Right.
So there's
Um.
a lot of less help involved in those movies, and it kind
Mhm.
of shows. They're still good.
Right. I
Um,
like them a lot.
yeah,
And
they're still. So anything I say about talking shit about this movie, it's not like actually talking shit. I still enjoy it more than a lot of other movies.
right, right.
Um,
I would agree. And we're gonna get
it's
to that
just
too. I think Star Wars has an
yeah,
unfair advantage.
yeah.
Which is fucking funny because I was going through number one, and while I'm watching, I was like, man, this is good. And then I stopped and was like, why?
But there's some parts. I'll say I've never been a fan of the pod racing. I always fall asleep
Dude,
at the
what you?
pod racing.
Just
Even,
shut up,
even,
dude. The pod. Okay,
even
whatever, dude.
even
Podcast is
on this
over.
rewatch, I was like, he was like, "You want to take a nap?" I said, "Nah, I just gotta get through this boring pod racing part."
Whatever, dude. This podcast is over. Everyone, unsubscribe. Unsubscribe, dude. Get the fuck out of here. This is.
Well, isn't everyone here for the riveting talk about trade federation and uh, politics?
No, that's not why
Oh,
we're here. We're here for the
that's not
fucking
me.
pod
Is
racing
it
and
just
the
me?
Jedi battles.
Oh, I love the dual lightsaber. It's the coolest thing ever.
Oh, buddy. Let me. Oh, buddy. Darth Maul.
Okay, Kylo Ren still has the coolest lightsaber.
No. Ew. No.
It's got a cross guard.
You cut out. You're fucking. You went like past the thing like your mic or something.
He's got a cross guard.
That's stupid. Um. Now I won't say that's actually stupid because it's pretty smart in terms of sword fighting. It was literally one of the greatest inventions of sword fighting. That way, when you clash swords, it didn't just continue
Well,
into your fucking shoulder.
technically no, because the cross guard has the metal part that makes it a cross guard. So if he slides the lightsaber down, it would break the part that makes a cross guard, and it
Well, no,
would
I
just
would
turn into
imagine
whatever the.
that like there's still the beam underneath that. It comes from like
Well,
the
imagine the
internal
beam.
core.
I think the beam would connect back into one giant beam rather. Cause I feel like there's like some kind of internal mechanism that shoots it outwards to the
Huh?
sides, and it wouldn't do anything unless it's made out of what's that shit that Mando. Oh, you haven't watched the Mandalorian, but
Not yet.
whatever Mandalorian armor is made out of, it
Hmm.
might if his lightsaber is made out of that, then I guess that's fair because that stuff can is resistant to lightsabers. So
Right. And I think it's too. It depends if we go with this idea of like he's separating it. I did hear at one point. I don't know how canon it was that lightsabers. The only reason Jedi can use them is because they're pulling like the sword out of the hilt with their powers. That it's like it takes the
uh,
concentration to control it. So he could be
I
doing that
wouldn't call
manually.
it. I think I've heard that before, but it's. I mean, it's a fucking. It doesn't work that way because in Episode 5, which is the second ever Star Wars movie ever made,
Hmm.
Han pulls it out and uses it to cut open the tauntaun.
I see. Then it's interesting why they're not mass produced. Maybe it's just a continuity error. Reading too much into
It's
it.
just you can't effectively use one without like hurt injuring yourself or others unless you're like a Jedi,
Maybe.
or some bullshit like
But in
that.
that case, it's just a sword.
Even Qui-Gon said the same thing whenever, or even Qui-Gon mentioned it in this movie. Anakin asked him if he was a Jedi. He's like, "What makes you think I'm a Jedi?" And he was like, because you have a laser sword.
Right.
Only Jedis have those." And he was like, "Oh, maybe I killed a Jedi." And he was like, "Oh,
Oh.
yeah." Anakin,
Okay,
yeah,
so maybe
Anakin's,
it's actually
yeah,
it's a situation where they're only distributed by the Jedi,
yeah.
and
Only
only they
Jedis
know how
have
to
them.
make them.
Yeah,
That it's not that you can't use it, it's just that they literally don't exist anywhere but in their hands, and if they're gonna die, it's gonna be to a Sith dude who might take it for himself or something, you know.
exactly. Like
Because
General Grievous. He
right.
wasn't technically a Jedi or a Sith, right? He didn't know anything of the Force
Well, I thought he
that
had a
we
high
know of.
midichlorian count, and that's why he had to have his biological parts. I don't know, maybe that was a fan theory, but it was like
I
you
mean, it
had
might
to.
have been in the Clone Wars. I don't recall.
Got you.
But I know he's more like fucking delved into in the Clone Wars. Um, so so's fuck, what's his name? The bad guy from the one we just watched.
Maul, him and his
Phantom
brother, right?
Menace.
I gotta
Maul, yeah,
watch
him
that.
and Maul, they both get way more development, and they like, so does Zuko. So like, it's the Clone Wars is does amazing,
Oh yeah,
amazing character work for like everyone in the prequels,
right.
even
I want to
Padme.
get to it too. Like I've watched some
Uh,
when it was airing on TV, but I
yeah,
never caught all of it, and I really want to visit it
mm-hmm.
with this Star Wars binger that we're doing. Number one.
Talking about Star Wars.
I'm trying to think back to if we had any tangents we had to fix. I think we got through all of them though.
Pretty sure,
Um,
yeah.
but I think it's the point I think we started with was that it gets a pass for being Star Wars. I think that
Hmm.
was one thing did want to bring up is that every time I'm watching this shit, everything it does is cool because it's Star Wars. And I noticed that like I was like, why is that so important? Because it's almost like it's alive or some shit. And this is like fucking this is why I say when I think about the first six to me seem to be this world, these people, these things. It's all very like living in a way. I don't think
Yeah.
the last three feel like they're different in a way that it's a different galaxy or a different something. There's something off. But when you watch them go to like Tatooine and shit and just walking around, that was a cool scene. Like just them walking. I'm like, yeah, walk around and
You
go.
liked the last one, right? Because it looked like the last one was incorporating a lot of stuff from the outside of it, just its own little tiny
Uh,
plot.
which one? The nine?
Yeah.
Nine? Yeah, no, I love nine. I love nine for many
Okay.
reasons. And people will go back and forth, and then we'll have to get into this one. That's
I
actually
have
like a
to I have to I
2 hour.
have to watch 9. So I tried watching it like 2 or 3 times, but I never finished it. So
Got you.
I
Yeah,
do need to
that whole
finish 9.
series. I think we should do that one all together because I do
Yeah.
think if you don't do that those three together, you really individually, you could probably say all three
There's
are
a
fucking
lot. There's a
terrible.
lot that I like from the original two, and I could pull from it. But so far, what I've seen of 9, I was not a fan. But I would definitely have to finish it. Uh,
Right, and that's why I say it depends on what you're looking for. It depends on how you view it. It's turbulent. Those last three are I'm gonna call them turbulent because there's a lot of things going on. It had like two different writers, fucking multiple directors, and it was a fucking just a horse shit show of stuff.
I mean, technically, the original trilogy had two different writers because it was George Lucas and I always forget who the fuck the other
He
guy
was
that helped
involved
him
though,
do the
right?
original trilogy. Huh?
He was pretty heavily involved though, right?
Yeah, George Lucas
Yeah,
and the other guy. Yeah, they're both.
and it seemed like they were on the same
He was kind of
page.
tame. From what I understand is he was kind of taming back a lot of George Lucas's crazy like ideas of like trying to make this world like really really big.
Right,
Um, and he was trying to tone it down because in the 70s we didn't really have like big fantasy crazy stuff. So
right,
he was just like, "Hey, you can't. What is this force of the wills? What are these things? What are you talking about? No, this is too much for like people to try to grasp so early on."
right. And I
And
like that.
I mean
They had a good
it
balance.
worked out. I mean it worked out because it created Star Wars to be like made for people who don't know anything about anything,
Right, it
or
was
like people who
approachable.
don't like aren't into fantasy or like want to hear all this deep lore and stuff. And
Right,
look at Dune. Dune came out what in the 70s, and that shit like flopped because they were trying to do all the little crazy lore stuff in the beginning of
right.
the
And now
movie.
the remake
And
is apparently
yeah,
really successful.
yeah, because
Because
people
people are
were
more.
more
Yeah,
used
yeah.
to stuff that's super heavy on lore. So
Right, and that's what I think that you're on like a good point about that too. Because I told someone this one day, they're like, "Yeah, Star Trek, blah blah blah," and then they did all those Star Trek, Star Wars battle, and I'm like, honestly, they're both fine, they're both good. I said, but if you look at it, and I told them my personal opinion is I prefer Star Wars, but I was like, Star Wars is awesome because it's just exciting. I was like, Star Wars is fucking awesome. You go to these cool worlds and there's bandits and you're slicing stuff. There's lightsabers and there's fights and Jedi and cool stuff. It's amazing. It's super engaging. I was like, but it's not on per episode, per thing, so deep. I was like, but if you look at Star Trek, it's like, oh, it's so much deeper. It has this drama, it has this stuff, and it's almost like a soap opera sometimes, which is great, and it has
it
so
is
much more
technically
scientific.
What's really funny that you picked up on that because George Lucas has always said that he's inspired by space operas and for all of Star Wars. So he's
Oh.
kind of just playing off the trends of space operas, is what he
Hmm.
was admitted to himself. Like when he was talking about the reason why the prequel trilogies are so different from the original trilogies is because he was like chasing the trends of space operas in the late 90s.
Hmm.
Uh, so that's
It's
actually pretty funny. Yeah.
yeah, but in Star Trek is super like smart guy stuff, right? They go into the
Yeah.
science behind it. They go into all the
And
nerd stuff.
the way I always try to describe to people who aren't like familiar with it is that Star Trek is actually like science fiction, whereas Star Wars is fantasy with a star with a science fiction like
Paint.
furniture. Yeah, with a science fiction paint.
Right. No, I believe that.
Perfect.
Yeah, because if you look, it's very much the tones, the themes are very different. Both equally, I think, equally good in their own right.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I definitely, and that was back to 2 steps ago. Um, Lucas writing how it was written. Yeah, no, the final three. I think 7, 8, 9. They're just you gotta tackle them in a different light, and that's the first way you can say something sucks. The first defense for something that's terrible is, well, you got to look at it like this. It's like, so obviously it has its issues, but that's why I'm gonna keep it separate. Anyway, that's a different story. We'll do that, all three of those in like a fucking 4-hour cast or something. Um, but back to number one. Yeah, the Star Wars world, I think, is just fucking awesome. Everything about it is so fucking cool that like I like it. I just like watching them do stuff. I like watching them walk to places and see people and the background. It's like
Yeah.
this place exists without them. That's what's so cool, and I think that like that's missing from a lot of stuff, not just Star Wars or anything, because it's like this is a cool place. When they land somewhere and go do stuff, there's all these people in the background doing deals, fucking like crazy bandits and stuff, and not a lot of them, but I guess enough of them come back later, and either in other shots or end up in the plot somehow or whatever. And it's like, whoa, this is cool, and I think that's unfair because of like the bias that I had, because I noticed I gave it a higher rating than it deserved. And I was like, why? I was blown away. It was so exciting and fun. I was like, because it's Star Wars, because it's fucking cool. Um, and I don't know if that's like, should I take it away? Should I take those points away and be more objective, or is that a part of what makes it good? Like, is that objectivity to say, well, it's unfair to say this scene or this setting was cool because I'm biased because it was fucking Star Wars, but that's also fair because they built that world themselves, and that's what makes it cool?
Hmm. Okay. Weird. Apparently, they brought him back, Lawrence Kasdan, to help work. This is the guy who helped him with the original trilogy. Uh, he worked on The Force Awakens, Solo, which holy fuck, I love that movie. So,
Yo,
it,
apparently that movie, everyone said it sucked in the box office and is fucking awful and got
yeah,
canceled number two.
yeah.
Now, why? We gotta get into that
Uh,
movie because that movie was fucking awesome.
I like the movie. There's a lot of needless shit in it. There's a lot of fluff, but outside of the
Fuck
fluff,
that.
for me, it's really good.
Yeah, I
Like
thought it
just
was
the
like an
main.
8. I got him like a fucking solid
Uh,
8. I was like, that shit was
yeah, I'd
good.
say like there was a lot. Yeah, so the people were mad. Whatever. There's some anti SJW guys mad about the robot with the liberate all
I
droids,
did hear that. So
and
that was some critique about. I mean, that's not a real critique. She was awesome. She was one of my favorite characters.
she was hilarious.
Yeah, she said
But
"Be
I
free,
mean,
my people" or some shit, and like smashed
I
something. I
I
was like,
get
yeah,
it. I get you hate SJW stuff, but like that wasn't really SJW. It was just a droid going, "I need my droids to be free."
right. It
It
was
was funny.
cool. It was in
Uh,
good taste. That's how SJW stuff should be done. Like, someone bitched about his Lando's relationship with the bot, right?
that was a little weird, but
I
yeah.
was like, I don't mind it because we've never lived
They
like
tur
that.
they turned him into a droidophile.
I don't know. I think it was
uh,
okay because look at how lonely he
he's a
must have been.
robosexual, Trey,
No,
as
because look at how
Futurama would call
lonely
him.
he might have been living the lifestyle he did.
Yeah,
You can't trust other people. You can't trust other humans.
yeah,
They'll stab you in the back. So he has this droid who's been with him, let's say, I don't know, 5 years, and they're
yeah,
together, thick and thin. She's probably saved his life a few times. Like, they had to have developed a relationship. And as far as I'm concerned, droids in that universe are sentient. Like, you can't tell me that R2
yeah.
doesn't have feelings.
I was
R2
saying,
is very
we were
courageous.
watching when we were watching the hell is it called Phantom Menace earlier
Mm-hmm.
today with the with subtitles on
Mm-hmm.
because Keela can't hear the Whenever R2D2 would have his little beep boop beep boop, it would say happy beeping or like
Yeah,
a sad beep. So
dude, you know
yeah,
it's called Huttonese, and it shows it translated in the subtitles.
yeah.
That was fucking
Hutties.
cool. I've never watched it
I think
without
it's called. It's
subtitles.
pretty sure it's called Hutties,
Oh, whatever.
not
Yeah, I didn't
Huttonese.
know how to
Yeah.
read, but it was
Yeah,
like
I don't know how to read.
it was like what is this or something, and in parentheses
Yeah.
Huttonese. I was like, that's fucking awesome. Because I'd never seen it with subtitles, so that was a super cool thing that like you wouldn't have gotten otherwise, and I thought
Mhm.
that was really awesome. That they translated that for you. But yeah, no, I think droids are sentient. I think that there's a lot of evidence that supports that.
Yeah.
So it's like to develop a relationship in some fashion. Sure, I don't think he was going behind
It's
closed
pretty.
doors and
So
fucking
yeah,
her.
it's pretty good. They got him back to help rewrite Force Awakens, which actually was probably one of the stronger of the sequel. It was. I think it's the strongest of the sequel trilogy.
Hmm.
Uh, has the best first impression. I'll give it that.
Right,
Um, the second one, it took me a couple digestions, and I said, you know what? I like this, this, and this. I could separate it from this trash over here.
right. We can't get too far on those though. We got to leave those alone.
Definitely.
We'll be
But
here
yeah,
for fucking 6 hours.
they got him to help with the Force Awakens, which makes a lot of sense. I wish they kept him on for the other two,
Right.
because he made Empire. He was like the main writer of Empire. Uh,
Yeah, who knows how stuff goes behind closed doors.
George Lucas originally wasn't gonna make Darth Vader Anakin, so
Really?
yeah.
That's weird. That feels really good. That almost felt like planned.
Well, he was originally supposed to die and lose in the first one.
Really?
Like he went flying in space, just fucking floating away whenever the Death Star blew up. He went flying off, like just like he didn't mean to fly. He just kind of like went, just spinning out of control away.
Huh.
Like they wrote it in a way where they could bring him back, so
Right, right.
and it
And it
not feel
worked.
weird, right? Yeah.
I
Like you
think
couldn't even
he's-
you wouldn't be
he's
like,
way
oh
more
right. I was like,
compelling
wait,
than
didn't he die? No, he got flung away. He somehow he made it back.
Right.
So like your mind doesn't even go, wait, didn't he get flung away? Nah.
That's true.
Don't
I
worry
never
about that.
questioned it. I just knew. I was like, well, we didn't see him die. He's clearly plotting something. He's a bad guy. They always come back and they're plotting, you know?
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
Except for when they get thrown off a balcony. You can't see that. They're done.
Oh
man.
no.
But-
Maul got thrown off a balcony, had cut in half, still came back.
How did they? I never thought about that. How the fuck did they write that?
You have to watch the Clone Wars to
I guess
find
yeah.
out.
I was about to say that is a spoiler technically. I guess I'll find out. But that's because I never thought about that. If he does show up in Clone Wars, he wasn't dead,
I mean, he was at the end of Han Solo's movie too.
was he?
Yeah, he was the guy in the chair. I was talking to the girlfriend.
Oh, okay. I remember the scene with the girlfriend. Don't remember who the bad guy was.
Yeah, that was Maul.
Got you.
All you could see was the horns on his head. That was it. That was just like, look, it's Maul.
Got you. I didn't know the
And
continuity of that one, too.
he had like robot legs too. So
Really?
yeah,
Oh, so it was continuity. It was after that.
yeah.
That's cool. But yeah, no. Fucking. I think Solo was great. Solo was fucking awesome. Maybe we'll do a video on that one just to tell people to shut the fuck up and notice how great it was.
Well, I didn't think Maul was gonna be part of Solo's story because at the time they were still planning on doing an Obi-Wan movie.
Mhm.
So I thought he was gonna show up in Obi-Wan's movie and try to get revenge for what happened to himself.
Right. And then we got that
on
in,
Obi-Wan.
the Clone Wars, all right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we already got him in the Clone Wars initially before the
Or wasn't it
Um,
like there was an extra? There was some kind of other side small thing.
Clone Wars came out before. Oh, you talking about the Bad Batch or
Was it Bad
like,
Batch that he was him and Obi-Wan?
I didn't watch Bad Batch and I didn't watch Rebels, and I have to refresh on Clone Wars because I only seen like random episodes.
Because I do remember I seen clips of it and it got fleshed out. Him and Obi-Wan actually had their piece and it was like animated. I was like, oh, it must happen
Okay.
in Clone Wars.
I didn't see that then. No.
It's really
I didn't
good.
finish Clone Wars either, but yeah, I know I know some of the stuff that happens in it, but I've
Right.
seen random episodes here and there. So
This is hard. We got to get like. we
man,
gotta
it's Star
fucking-
Wars. It's huge.
I know. We gotta
Shit.
get blind.
Don't even get me started on the books.
Right. We haven't even started on number 1.
Anakin shows up. He becomes a Jedi. End of story. Let's talk about Star Wars.
Right. I actually want to talk about Dooku and shit. Like literally, I'm like, let's talk about fucking Dooku and where his shit comes from and everything else. And
Let's talk about Trade Federation and how they're fucking with Naboo and their and with their embargo, was it embargo?
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
no,
an
they
embargo.
actually it was a weird thing, right? And this is what I don't understand. You're the politics guy. They put like 100 star destroyers and surrounded the planet with guns,
It was
and
a
then
tiny
said,
planet. It's fair.
okay, there's no one allowed to go in or out, but it
Yeah,
was
they
legal.
blockaded. Yeah, it was weird.
Because like they can. I don't know if they. Maybe it's because they
Because
never actually shot
technically they're
anybody.
not attacking the planet. Like I don't know the whole like law and system of of fucking Star Wars or the Republic. And for some reason, hey, I have in my brain it was like, okay, so they're just like putting their finger in their face and be like, I'm not touching you, I'm not touching you.
Right, but
Um,
they said it was now. Technically, I guess they're the Trade
whenever
Federation.
they're about to invade, or when Palpatine told them to invade, they were like, "Is that legal?" And he said, "I'll make it
Dude,
legal."
that shit was
Uh,
good. Whew. Um,
uh,
but yeah, I think maybe they weren't shooting people because I do know that they were the trade guys, so maybe they were just starving them. Um,
yeah,
maybe they were
but
starving
how are they
them.
stopping them? But they have a planet full of food. Unless
Maybe
they
they,
have so
but
much,
we don't know
it
what
doesn't
they
look like
import.
Naboo has like that big of a population that they can't subsist on their own planet because like they were so not densely populated.
I don't
It
know,
was so
right?
empty.
But we don't know if because I didn't see any fields. We saw jungles, but I didn't see like
Yeah, but you can
fields
hunt the animals.
or
I mean,
agriculture.
granted, Padme was a fucking pacifist. She said, "I want to start. I don't want to start a war. They're attacking you.
Right.
Defend yourself."
Literally, they're here. I don't want any actions that could lead to war. It's on your doorstep.
They're literally attacking you right now.
Oh, that shit's
War
was
has
it.
begun, whether you want it to or not.
Reminds me of
Um,
fucking what's it called?
so they might be pacifists, right? And if they're pacifists, they could potentially be vegetarian, and
Maybe.
they have to import avocados from the avocado planet.
Right.
Um, so I don't know.
Right. Right. It could be. That shit is funny. That reminds me of like Hercules. He says, "Send
Yeah.
word. Everyone's captured. I'm captured."
Yeah,
That's,
Hermes, hello, Hermes.
yeah, that's literally what happened to Naboo. It's like we got to do something about the war. The war's coming. It's here. We're already captured. Oh, that shit's funny. But yeah, no. So I don't know if maybe because maybe they just stopped delivering them goods and it was super important. And they had like a complete monopoly on all goods across the galaxy.
Maybe.
So, and at least for the ones they were involved with, which apparently was a lot of the galaxy. But yeah, I don't know. Either way, I guess we can assume that maybe that's something was going on, but it was technically okay.
They're okay. Technically, it wasn't legal, but they picked Naboo. There was some weird new tax code in the fucking Republic, and they're trying to challenge the fucking reach and legitimacy of the Republic's law. They were like, can you do something about it? I don't think so. Basically, to the Republic.
Mm, I see, which makes
And they're
sense.
staging. They were like staging a sit-in protest, but using an entire planet.
Oh, one thing too. Speaking of the "I'll make it legal" phrase, when I was a
Yeah.
kid, I genuinely did not know that that was Palpatine until like
Uh,
midway through number two.
I can't remember who I was watching it with. There was one of my older cousins or something, and they pointed and they said, "You know, that's the Emperor." And I said, "Oh." And I was like 4. I don't know.
Right?
No, I was older than 4 because they didn't come out until 1999, right? Yeah, no.
But it
So
was
I
just
watched
funny.
the
Like,
original trilogy when I was like 5 or 6, and then I watched that not in theaters. I didn't watch. I watched 2 and 3 in theaters, but
mm,
yeah, I watched 1 on VHS at some point, probably 2000, 2001.
right.
Um,
That shit made me
that
laugh
was
though.
before, yeah,
I was like, it's the
yeah.
same guy. He has the chin, he has the voice,
Yeah.
he has the same fucking cloak, and then he says, "I'll make it legal." How can he do that unless he's involved with the legal system?
Yeah.
Just stupid. I was like, how the fuck, even in my child brain, did that not click at all until like midway through number two when you get the reveal or so? I was like, oh, that shit's funny. But yeah, no, I think just to look at the nuance of the movie because these are the things that don't get reviewed. The movies, all the little details are fucking great, and this is the kind of thing I think I talk about with One Piece too. In a similar fashion, the droids are fucking hilarious throughout the whole movie. Everything they do and say, just great.
Maybe it was
Um,
based on real world politics. In real world politics, a blockade is a legitimate option between states in a declared state of war. Well, I guess technically they didn't just state of war. right? They weren't technically at war with Naboo, or were
No.
they?
Well, they couldn't
No.
shoot him because that's where that was like
I
if
guess
they
he
have
was
a
just taking that and doing like liberties with it, right?
right.
Uh,
Okay. Because I was thinking like if there it's a blockade, sure, but if I can just still fly past your ship, you can't detain me or stop me, or that's
yeah,
illegal. So then you've broken the law. So what the fuck's the point in putting your ships out here with the big guns if you're not going to actually shoot anybody? But then maybe they did. They just don't talk about it.
yeah,
They did say your messenger never got here, so how many messengers never got there? You know.
yeah.
One thing I thought was funny on the ship though, because I usually take my notes in chronological order, so I guess I'll try and navigate that way so we don't jump around too much. One thing I thought was funny is in the fucking in the beginning, they had a standoff, air quotes, with the two droids. God, that
Oh
shit
yeah,
was
yeah.
stupid. He was like, two roly polies. By the way, my favorite droid ever.
The roly police.
They're fucking great, dude. Not only were they great, they were absolute bus ass in Battlefield
My
One and
my favorite is
Battlefront One
still
and
the
Two.
Roger Rogers. Roger, Roger, Roger,
Roger,
Roger.
Roger. Dude, one thing that's cool is the super battle droid. I noticed this, and it maybe I mislooked at this, but from what I could tell, I didn't see a single super battle droid, but I did see battle droids, and I was like, no shit. That's why they're called super battle droids, because they didn't manufacture them until number two. But they already had battle droids, so what do you call
They're on
these
the
better
assembly
ones?
line in number two, right? They're being built in number two.
Yeah, and I thought
Yeah.
that was cool. I was like, yo, they had this shitty droids that probably were getting beat up around the world, or like around the galaxy.
hmm
Now we have super battle
The
droids. I was like,
the
that's fucking
shitty
cool.
fucking Roger, Roger.
Yeah, I was like, that's really
They're,
neat.
they're fucking fumbling about everywhere. They ain't fucking
They're my
does not
favorite.
compete.
I
Oh,
love
they're
them.
fucking hilarious.
He
I
said,
thought you liked the roly police. I thought they were your
no,
favorite.
but I love those guys. They're added. The roly polies are just the coolest. Cause look at them, they go
Okay.
and they got a fucking shield and everything. I'm also biased because of Battlefront 1 and 2. You just roll up with a
Yeah.
fucking shield and they were super bus ass. So that's one
Oh
reason I'm
man.
a little biased about them. But they're droids, and I thought it was funny.
I like
Two
I
of
like
them
the
show
I like
up.
the dumb ones. I love the dumb fucking Roger Roger droids. They're fucking hilarious.
What happened? Where'd he go?
I can fight with someone who will say the clones are better. I
Nah, fuck that. If I had to pick clones or the Roger Roger droids, I'm
oh,
picking
not
those the
clones.
droids.
What are the fucking stormtroopers? Stormtroopers are better grunts. Nah, get out of here.
Stormtroopers are the
Fucking Roger
worst
Roger.
version.
Uh,
Stormtroopers are the worst version of any grunts. It was
you'll
like
still fight with someone who's like 40 years old who prefers the original
no.
stormtroopers as the baddies.
The stormtrooper. I mean, I will say they were intimidating, and they were kind of cool.
Until after the first one, and then after the first one, they were just dumb. Well, I'm like, they're not intimidating after the first one.
I can't remember them showing up in number 2, so I don't know.
Uh, yeah, in like the Empire and Return of the Jedi, they just get fucking, especially Return of the Jedi, they become a fucking joke in Return of the Jedi. They get fucking beat by dumb little teddy bears with slingshots.
Oh yeah, I remember that. I mean, they had guerrilla warfare. They didn't see it coming. They kind of got them.
Yeah, I agree with that, but just the way it was presented on screen was just like these derpy little teddy bears
That
throwing
is true.
fucking.
And every time they got hit, it was just whoa, and they got blown up. And then they go to the next shot.
Yeah.
Whoa, we got blown up again. So maybe you're right. There was
Yeah.
no scene where they were actually like vicious or scary or had the upper hand.
Yeah,
I
maybe
could
the
see
first
that.
one. That's about it. Yeah,
Because the
very
first one they were pretty scary. It was like, and then the way they took orders too. It was like they were always quiet.
I would say they do a really good job in these newer ones to make some of these like special looking troops intimidating.
Right. What's her name? The
like
Queen
these
Captain or
newer
whatever.
shows. Oh yeah, Gwendolyn Christie's.
She was
character, I don't
fucking
remember. Phasma.
sick.
Yeah,
That bitch
Phasma.
was scary.
She
I
took
was
out
little-
like a wait. Did she show up in the third one? She didn't show up in the third one at all, right? She died in the second one and never came
I
back.
don't know,
Oh, okay.
but I know that she was fucking cool.
Uh,
And this is again
so
part we
she-
can't go to that.
I was
one too far.
excited for her, but then she just kind of just didn't do nothing.
Right, and that's why I say we can't go
yeah.
too far. We'll get stuck in that shit. 'Cause
Yeah.
I can talk about that all
Yeah.
day. The fucking. But yeah, I think overall the droids are funny, but they're not scary. But that's the point. That's what makes them, I think, interesting.
Yeah.
And if you're looking for, I want serious, intimidating bad guys, then yeah, maybe you'd be disappointed with them. But they're
Yeah.
also still, I mean, they still pose a threat. Some of them are goofy, but they still have blasters. But maybe that's
Yeah.
also why they redesigned them for the super battle droids in number 2, because they realized the fan
Maybe, yeah.
response was like.
I will say the super battle droids are definitely more intimidating. So I don't
Right.
know. The fucking roly polies were pretty intimidating. They
They
held
really
off two
were.
fucve Jedi's.
Right. He said it's a standoff. We have to
I was
leave.
literally, I turned to Keely. I said, "Why don't the new fucking droids have fucking what is this shit called? Shields generators?"
I think they're expensive and they don't last very long.
Mm,
Because
okay.
at least based on like, and this is I got really reaching, but when you play the games, they're on a cooldown, and if they take too much damage, they just go off essentially.
Yeah.
And their blasters weren't like that strong,
Yeah.
because they were tied to their body. Now I guess you could say then have a separate blaster tied to their body, but I imagine it was because the way they were designed, it was one power source. So that
Yeah.
power source, it had to power the shield generator, so they couldn't afford power to other things,
Makes
so the
sense.
shields would fail.
Makes sense.
But then again, that's just like technological limits. That's if you give them limits on
Yeah.
technology in a fantasy world, which is usually not, it's not going to hold up. Because you'll just it's easy
Yeah.
enough to turn around and say, oh, well, look at here. They had power for this. It's like, yeah, yeah. But you gotta try
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
find, you gotta try and find some grasp of
They're
reality.
old models. Leave them alone.
Yeah, we'll do that. They're old models. They had power supply
Yeah.
issues, and that's why they could
The,
only
the
power this
ion
much.
the ion batteries were going out. It was just not. They weren't holding a charge properly. You know.
Right. So they could, they couldn't mass produce those. It wasn't cost effective, or they didn't have the minerals, right? Because they only had the one planet. I think there was the
Yeah.
droid army planet that they were making on.
They have multiple planets. I think. I mean, they technically had Mustafar as well, right? Uh,
I can't remember.
that
I
was
know the
that was
name.
the lava planet that Luke or not Luke, Jesus, Anakin and Obi-Wan were fighting on.
Right,
That's
and
the one they were
that
hiding
was
out at.
different from the planet where those big spider walkers were introduced in number 2.
Yes.
But that was a Federation. That was a Federation planet, clearly. But they were producing there. Um,
I looked like there were some droids doing some kind of work with like lava. I don't know what they were doing specifically, but they were collecting fucking lava, doing something with it.
right,
Uh,
right. I guess we can assume, and
so
it's a galaxy-wide thing, so we can assume that they're at least a few planets.
yeah, it's
Okay.
weird that they have a whole like I guess the Trade Federation. Like when I was a kid, I assumed they were just an organization of like merchants.
Right.
But
Same.
it seems like they're a planet that controls a bunch of other planets, kind of like the Russian Federation.
Right.
Uh, in our own world, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know how it was set up, but they definitely had a lot of power. You could tell.
Yeah.
But yeah, what's next on the chopping block, so we don't get too lost. Obviously
They
Jar Jar is fucking
they
hilarious.
tried to poison the the Jedi's, but it didn't work. Explain.
They held their
They're
breath.
like they should be dead now, I guess.
That's my headcanon. They either held their breath or used force push to push all of the gas away from their
Oh, that
bodies.
could be yeah, that could be what it was.
Um,
We didn't get to see that, but yeah.
right, right.
We just see there you go. They should be dead by now, right?
I
Yeah.
love it.
All right, and they
He's-
open the doors and then just zoom.
Nah, fucking what's his name
Ah.
comes out. Oh, hello.
Yeah.
That shit was funny.
Why didn't that fucking protocol droid tell them, hey, the Jedi's aren't dead yet?
Maybe it didn't
That
know.
big-
They may
They
have
could have known it was in there with them.
Well, not because it was gassy. It couldn't see. We don't know what kind of infrared it might have, but
Yeah.
depending on how its optics work, it was
It's that
smoky.
droid's fault that they escaped.
That shit was funny. That comes walking out. Oh, blast them! I love those fucking shitters, man. I do the Federation guy was funny. Like, come to the Federation guys, I do appreciate their stance when working with Palpatine, because every now and again you caught that it was like,
Yeah. Now there are two of them.
right, it was like, we shouldn't have done this. Why do we agree to this? They're like getting over their head. You can tell that they're just like kind of pawns.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're like greedy fuckers who just
Yeah.
want more shit, but they don't know really the magnitude of what they're doing. I like that shit.
You're
a
like,
lot.
hey, you guys should do this. Yes, we should. But you never know. Palpatine might have been using like force persuasion on them.
I don't think he would, because the other one was they weren't on board all the time.
Yeah, but I'm saying like the force persuasion only works the first time, but then after, but the way force persuasion works, it makes your mind think that you're the one who came up with that decision. And whenever you come up with a decision that you don't agree with later, a lot of times you double down just because but I'm already doing it. So
Right. I'm already committed.
yeah, I'm already committed. So
Right. They also have him to think they don't know. I guess I don't know how their dealings are, but they may understand that he can just kill them all or something too.
yeah, because they already made a deal with him. So like they're like, fuck, we're already too deep. He might
Right.
kill
If
us.
we back out now, we'll all die anyway.
Yeah, we already fucking blundered. Like, what? We're just gonna get penalized by the Republic now. At this point, we might as well just keep going
Right.
and
Because
try
if
to
we have to
win.
pick a side, well, fuck it. War's coming. Too late. Hopefully we're on the winning one.
Yeah,
No, that makes sense. I think was it moving on to the next thing. It was like Jar Jar and the Gungan boss.
Hmm.
The Gungan boss I thought was great up until he went way over the top with the spit and the. Um, I
Not gonna
just
lie, I kind of like the
maybe that
spit
shit
thing. I
was
didn't like it
funny.
originally, but
Um,
yeah.
it
For
wasn't
the
funny to
meme,
me.
it's pretty funny, but outside when I was first watching it, and then even up until like I don't know a year ago, I didn't like the.
I don't know. I kind of like it in the end. At the very end, it grew on me. I said, "Oh, he just does that shit on purpose." He's like just spitting on you for fun or something. I don't know what it, but somehow it kind of grew on me towards the end. But definitely in the first few, I was like, "Why is he doing all that? That's extra as fuck. Stop." But it was
Yeah.
it was like it was weird at first, but maybe that's the part of it. It's weird
Oh,
because I'm not used to it.
yeah. Although when I was growing up, I didn't know. I thought there were two different races. Uh,
Who Jar
the
Jar and his
fat ones and
boss?
the skinny. Yeah. I was like, wait a minute, he's just a fat Jar Jar.
That's funny. It's true though, because the one had like the Fu Manchu tendrils.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
assistant he looked like a catfish, where Jar Jar was more of
Yeah.
like an anteater. Um,
I guess they're more like ethnicities within the Gungan race.
maybe yeah, they're like different like breeds almost like dogs or
They
something.
breeds like dogs. Yeah, like dogs or cats. That's
Um,
fucking weird.
that makes sense.
Uh, yeah.
One thing I noticed, did you notice the
It's
little
like
baby
it's like
droids in the
having. Oh
background?
no, a better example is like people who have lobed ears and people who don't have lobed ears.
Right,
Uh, like the big old, like I have them fucking big old lobed ears, and then
right.
like no one else really does have that.
That makes sense.
Kind of like that. It's like an attachment to your fucking face.
Right,
It just
and
hangs
who
off of
can
you.
say where genetics would go based on how strong it could happen, you know?
Yeah.
Or based on like the thing, like think about like the Khajiit or something, or like the different
Yeah.
Argonian
Yeah.
races or something in Skyrim. It's like they're all there,
Yeah.
but some of them have different skin pigments, some of them have different horns, some of them grow in different ways. So yeah, that makes sense,
Yeah. Yeah.
genetically speaking. But did you notice
Yeah.
the little baby droids in the hallway on their ship, and they show up at the end of the movie in the battle when they're cleaning up? There's little tiny
Mm.
baby silver droids, and they're fucking hilarious looking. They're like little pygmy droids, and they just walk around and pick stuff up and do chores and stuff. It looks
The cleaner
hilarious.
droids. Yeah.
But they're great. I was like, look at those little midgets in the background. It was fucking hilarious. I guess I can't say that word. I don't know. Look at those little people droids. I don't want what's his name. Who's the fucker who did Game of Thrones?
Peter Dinklage.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
don't
Peter
want him to
Dinklage.
come fucking harass me.
I think you're a little under his radar.
Yeah, technically for now until we blow up big, and then he'll come after us. He'll say, "You said something about little people." The same guy who holds them down. Crazy. Did you see the Queen's outfits, by the way? Um,
Yeah,
those are
they're
fucking
all like,
sick.
yeah.
I don't know who does her wardrobe, but in every single one of them seemed to be like just
She
off
wasn't
the
the queen,
fucking
Trey.
wall.
She was the decoy.
Oh yeah, I get it. Speaking of the Queen, dude, that's fucking Jane Foster. I did not know that until I watched the movie.
Yes.
I'm like, holy shit, it's Jane
When
Foster.
Thor came out, I said they got Padme.
Yeah, no, mine's the opposite. Even though I did see these first.
Yeah, you just
That's
didn't really pick up on actors until recently.
yeah, no, I
Uh,
still don't even have the time until like I'm seeing it. It's like a second time, and I was like, yo, it's Jane
did you know
Foster.
who was playing the decoy queen? I know you didn't really get to see her face because she was like covered in makeup and shit. It's Elizabeth from Pirates of the Caribbean.
What? No way. That sucks. They didn't do her justice at
Yeah,
all. Like, I mean, the Queen was
well, she's
cool,
covered in makeup.
but like, she didn't
She's
have any
covered in
cool
makeup.
scenes. The thing that made her like, I guess it's the Pirates of the Caribbean thing. So maybe it's not the actor, but I think maybe it just depends, right? Because like sometimes actors do a role, but the role carries them, not their acting skill. But I
Yeah,
loved it. She was just this cool, badass bitch in all of the fucking Pirates movies. I really liked her character, so it would have been cool to see her do
yeah.
more stuff in that movie. Like she has a moment where she fights off somebody or something. You know, I don't know.
I was watching an interview with them. With the I can't remember which one it was. It was Keira Knightley or Padme. I forgot her name. Uh, someone will kill me. Natalie Portman. Natalie Portman and Keira Knightley had one of them had an interview, and they were talking about the being on set for Phantom Menace, and whichever one was talking, their mom had shown up on set and hugged the wrong one.
Really,
Like that one's your daughter. She's your daughter. She's like, oh, whoops.
bro? The disguise
Y'all
works
do
in
look
real
alike.
life. That's funny. That's actually pretty good. Also, back to them being pacifists, that's not true because they had tons of battleships and fucking guns and all of their soldiers who were
I'll say
protecting them.
that's a pretty bad, like outdated stuff, but yeah. It seemed outdated by the Trade Federation's standards, but
That's true. Maybe a
uh,
little archaic from a time before. Maybe they'd lived in peace for so long that
yeah.
it was back from a different age and they've been like
Did they
pacifists
have
forever.
like a long-standing like war or animosity with like the Gungans or something? Because they seem to like, oh, we need to come together like we never have or some bullshit like that.
I think they just
Uh,
didn't care. This is
yeah,
how I interpreted that. They didn't give a shit, but they weren't going out of their way to help him or nothing, which makes sense
yeah,
with the pacifist philosophy. It's like, oh, the Gungans are there. Don't look at them. Don't talk to them. We have to preserve them. Don't interact with them, kind of thing. Almost like they saw them as savages. Um,
yeah,
like how we would do like a tribe in whatever, like
yeah,
Brazil or something. It's like
yeah,
don't fuck with them, leave them alone. So maybe they could have seen them like that, which is why also when he says, "Oh, you so not think you better than the Gungans," that appears to be a big thing. They hate them because they think they're better than them, or that they're less intelligent.
yeah.
So I have to imagine that could have been
Okay,
what it
maybe
was.
yeah. The way they speak is kind of like a Creole language of like English. So I was like, I was like, that's pretty good.
Yeah, I didn't know how
It
they
makes
spoke
sense.
because I heard someone tell me one point they were like, "Oh, that's super racist." I was like, "Against
I was
who?"
literally, you know, what's really funny. I jokingly told Keely, I was like, man, it sounds like they're speaking like a Creole language, and if it is, it's kind of racist. Uh,
That's funny.
it is
See,
because like because Creole languages are mostly spoken in like the Caribbean,
mm-hmm.
and they're basically just like I don't want to say dumbed down versions of a language, but they're like more simplified versions of like the language of the people who like control those colonies. So if you were listening to Jamaican, you can kind of it's kind of intelligible with English.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can kind of make out what they're saying if you're an English speaker. Um, because they use basically English words, but they use a lot of words that we don't use,
Uh-huh.
or they use them in different ways. Um,
I see. Because I've never
so
heard
it
someone speak like that, and I was like, I like in my life, I was like, I've never heard
yeah.
anyone even talk like that. So if it's supposed to be racist, they're doing a bad job. They could have at least, if make him sound like Thug Nasty Nasty Thug or something. I was like, if you're gonna,
No, oh, so yeah, the reason I think that person probably thought it was racist because it sounds like it's a Creole language,
mm,
based on English. So,
right, and I was like,
uh,
I think it's also too, I think it's okay to have them
yeah,
speak
it
however, because
makes
it,
sense. Like after I said it to Keely, like jokingly making fun of it, I said it makes sense. There, I said, I imagine. I don't know how Star Wars lore is. Like, are the Nabooans actually born there and they look human, or did humans just spread out across the galaxy and they just the Gungans are the natives in Naboo, and so because it's English is spoken so much in Naboo, they just picked up over there,
I
or they
believe
didn't
that
have
because
like
you
a
see they have
yeah
their own
like
language separate.
still yeah they're like Creole like English is similar to English, so it makes
Right,
sense
right. They
to
just
me.
pick up on words, and if you don't know what a word means,
Yeah.
you're gonna, or at least if you can context clue it, you're gonna use it
Misa
in.
speak.
Hmm?
Just because you can speak doesn't make you intelligent.
Right, and I like that line specifically because and this is again, it goes back to what I was thinking that the Naboo might think them as just savages. Don't talk to them. Let them live in peace. Don't
But yeah,
mix.
I thought it was just that Jar Jar was stupid, but all the Gungans talk like Jar Jar, so it could just be their like their language, which was like influenced by English from the settlers,
Well, no, they
the
have their
first
own
English.
language. They do like little clicks and whatever the fuck, and noises.
I thought that was just a click,
No, he
honestly.
spoke like in some other language. I thought, and they responded to it. Like they responded within that. So I think that
Oh, I
what you're
lied.
saying makes more
Then
sense. They've been around the humans.
I'm looking at it right now. The Nabooans actually have their own language as well. The humans on Naboo,
Hmm.
um, they have their own language,
Interesting.
and then they also speak Galactic Basic Standard,
Right.
which is English. Yeah. Hmm.
But it makes sense that if you
Weird.
didn't know a word, you would pick it up in context clues.
Yeah.
So it would be like, oh, like you said, Misa spake, and it was like, that he thinks that's good. Like, yeah, you see, I speak your language, you know, and it's not necessarily anything bad or wrong. That's what always kills me is when people jump to this whole racist card. It's like, no, this is evolutionarily speaking the correct
Yeah.
way to
Makes
represent these
sense.
people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like they put an A on
Because
everything.
because like the people who are speak English or Galactic Standard don't wouldn't know how to speak Gungan, so the
Right,
Gungan immediately just defaults to, oh, I know this kind of standard language. Here you go. Uh,
right.
so I can actually so you can communicate with them. Uh,
Right, right. And then when you pick up on things, it's like you don't. articulate because it'd be like me if I went to go like live in Mexico, you know. I
Yeah.
would have to use literally the basic knowledge I have, so all my conjuncture would
Yeah.
be wrong. Everything I say would be wrong, and I would skip all the middle words. If I was like, I need this or something, I might point and go, me need that or something, or you had
Yeah.
like if I didn't know, I don't know the Mexican word for dynamite. So if it's like, oh, me need big boom or something, I would say it like that,
Yeah.
because I don't know what dynamite means,
I
but I
don't
can
have a
ask for
boomer.
big boom, and
I
you'll know
don't
what
have a
you'll know
boomer.
what that means. Um,
I make fun of Jar Jar, but he's fine.
I
It's
like it. I
whatever.
like it a lot. I like how they're represented, and it's like so that's cool, and that's kind of sort of like in a side story about the SJW stuff. They usually come up every topic somehow. But back to episode 1.
Yeah.
Our whole talk about language after talking about speech and how the Gungans talk and everything.
Short story long.
Short story long, the Gungans' voices are cool, and it's not racist because it makes sense biologically and not sociology. It would have evolved like that, and it's really fucking actually really well done, and I appreciate what they've
Yeah.
done. Um,
It's a natural way for like a language like that to form
right,
the
and
way
I,
they
I like
speak.
that.
Yeah.
Okay, so next one I thought was fucking hilarious was when they're when Padme meets Jar Jar. You're a
Yeah.
Gungan, aren't you?
Bro, I said that shit to Keely. Oh my god. She's like, well, maybe like when someone says you're what was it? You're a nerd, aren't you? I'm like, no, it's different. It's an ethnicity. It's like she
Yeah,
should
no,
be.
it's
She
like you
should
go up
know.
to
She's the queen of the planet.
right, like she'd never seen. But the fact is, she knew their name. At least it'd be like
Maybe
if
it's
she
on
was like,
purpose. Maybe she's never seen a Gungan in her life. Their
oh
civilizations are that separated
yes,
that she's never
yes,
seen a Gungan, but she kind of knows what they look like. She says, aren't you a Gungan?
yes. No, that's cool. That's actually super cool, and it fits with what we were talking about before. That like if you've never seen that, but you've heard stories, yeah, they're like fish kind of people with long ears or something or whatever, and it's like they live
Yeah,
out here in the swamps. Whoa, that sounds cool. Then you see a tall fish-y kind of guy who's flopping about. Is that
yeah.
that's a Gungan, right? And but
Man,
let me
that's
make sure.
someone's lost potential right there because her friendship with Jar Jar doesn't like it comes out of nowhere. I feel in
Right,
episode 2, like that could have been such a cool thing to like, oh, this start of her becoming friends with this Gungan
right,
makes up during war in her home planet creates more like a prosperity, not prosperity. What's the word I'm looking for? It creates progress between these two separated civilizations on this planet.
right. It's
Uh,
really cool. That's actually super awesome.
and Jar Jar becomes a fucking senator, right?
Right, he
In
does.
this
Yeah.
episode 3. Yeah.
No, that's super sick. And that would be cool if they shared more about little culture things.
If
Um,
if she like gave the job to Jar Jar whenever she retired, whatever, she's like, oh, I can't be a senator anymore. I'm married, blah blah blah, whatever.
mhm.
She, if she gave the job to Jar Jar, that's the reason why he got the job. That would have made so much more sense than this fucking bumbling idiot
Right.
becoming
One thing I
becoming
like too,
senator.
they did play on that a little bit when he's sitting there and they had I don't know where they were at or what part in the movie, but they had the little moment together. He was like, "Yeah, Miss, I think you know like us because we got a big army," and I was like,
Yeah,
"That's cool," because he doesn't know why they don't like them. That shows more the separation between their cultures. Now he's not like a
yeah,
politician or nothing, so maybe he'd be less privy to the information. Um,
yeah. He's more like
but
the town fool.
right, so maybe he wouldn't have known. But the fact that that does show separation is he's never even spoken to them like that to even know why they don't like
Yeah,
him. You know.
yeah,
So
exactly.
that's kind of cool, and he actually opened up with that a little bit. That's really good, man. Fuck, there's more shit in this movie than I thought about. And this is what I talked about earlier, though. I didn't have the words for it, and this is why our discussions have to be this long. Is when I mentioned, I was like, man, Star Wars is so fucking cool. Every time I watch it, I just like it, even if they're not doing anything important. I just like watching them exist in the world. And this is another reason I think why it's this subtext, it's the subtlety that my brain is processing it. Like it's there, we see it, but it's not in my foreconscious or whatever the fuck you call that. Conscious, like, I don't know, subconscious, the one that's I'm thinking. It's not there, so I don't think about it in the moment. But that's what makes it good. And you see this historically with everything. You see it with good video games, with good movies, with good everything. On retrospect, it's like look at this and look at that and look at this and look at how great all these things work together. And it's like, huh, I never noticed. But it was always there. You're still processing this subconsciously, even though you're not noticing it. You there? I think we lost him.
Yeah, yeah, I'm
Oh,
sure.
But that's cool. Dude, no, something I noticed. How tall is Liam Neeson?
Yeah, he's massive.
Okay,
Uh,
because they were walking in the scene when they got to Tatooine, and they were walking around the corner right before Jar Jar fucking tried to steal the chicken. And they're walking around the corner, and I thought Padme was like, regular sized, maybe like 5'7" something. And they
yeah,
turned the corner, and she didn't even come up to his shoulders.
yeah,
She looked like
he's
a little
tiny.
baby kid. Like she could have been past her 4 foot tall. I said, "Holy
I
shit,
want
is he
to,
a giant?"
or I had this like what's the shit called? Like record book, broken records or whatever, and it was like a book of like cataloging a bunch of different records that were broken to shit,
Guinness Book
and
of World Records.
some yeah whatever, but the it was in it was episode one of Phantom Menace, and it was for some fucking reason I can't remember, but they had to pay like I think $1 million because Liam Neeson was too fucking tall and to get like a bigger fucking uh I don't remember what it was. I was so tiny when I read this shit, but because he was tall, so tall, it costed the movie like $1 million or something to get him properly in frame. I don't remember exactly. Uh,
Liam Neeson is 6'4".
yeah, he's huge.
That's crazy. I was thinking he'd be like 6'5", 6'6", but 6'4" is still fuck, man. That fucker's
When Padme
tall.
was tiny, also she was like what, 18 when she did that movie? 17, 18.
I don't know. You're about your height. You're about your full height at that. Let's find out how tall Miss Portman is. She's five
So
three.
people don't stop.
Okay. So he's over a foot taller than her. That's why she didn't barely come up to his shoulders. I was like, holy fuck, he must be a giant in that scene. You don't notice it throughout the rest of the movie, but in that one scene, I really noticed it. Okay, there's a problem here. This is the first critique I have to give the movie, and it's the next thing on my list. It's not necessarily a problem, but
Yeah,
it did feel weird, and I'm gonna give it a little bit of minus, but maybe it's how it was presented, not the idea. Similar to the She-Hulk thing, was like Anakin being Jesus. That
yeah,
one was
yeah. Yeah.
that was a little much.
I kind of want to hold that off for a second. I just looked it up. It cost them $150,000 extra because they built the sets before they cast Liam Neeson, and he kept banging his head on all the doors, all the doorways.
That's funny. That's actually pretty funny.
Huh? So they had to spend 150,000 to make all the doorways slightly taller.
Right.
Why is he labeled as Darth Vader in the fucking cast? The kid who played Anakin on Phantom Menace, he's labeled as Darth Vader.
Wow, that's actually funny. He'll get there eventually. Oh, that's good.
Actually hilarious. Thank you, Google. But if
Internet's
I was just
great,
looking up Star Wars stuff, episode one, just to see the cast, so I'm gonna go see the movie for the first time. Darth Vader. Wait a minute.
right? Who? That'd be fucked up if you were trying to watch it chronologically. No, it'd be fine because you wouldn't know who that is until later.
They never called him that. What the hell? Yeah, but they were like, wait, why do they name Anakin Darth Vader in the casting? But they called him Anakin the whole time.
No, he wasn't Vader until number 3, but I think that's because they just knew it's the
But it
same person.
confused you if you like saw the casting and then you and then you watched the movie and you're like, but they called him Anakin. Why did the casting call him Darth Vader?
Right. And I think
Weird.
it's whoever runs the casting site, I imagine, when they put that in there.
Yeah.
Because they think about it, it came out after number 4.
Yeah.
So if you
Well,
know
this
this,
is Google. This is completely Google. Like IMDb, and I assume the movie don't have it casted that way.
oh, just Google.
IMDb,
Okay,
yeah, it's just Google.
gotcha.
Yeah, he's labeled as Anakin Skywalker on IMDb.
Okay,
Yeah,
and that makes sense
yeah, yeah,
because they're synonymous throughout the rest of the series. So
yeah, yeah,
Google might do that.
yeah. But you were saying about the
Yeah,
Jesus Skywalker?
Anakin being Jesus was like a little much,
Yeah,
but I think it's because of how it was presented. Um, I don't know. I think if they would have just left it like
he was conceived by the Force, Trey.
right, and I'm cool with that. I'm actually a-okay with him being the chosen one and being conceived by the Force and all that. And that's why I say I think it's the way it was presented. Because if they just found this kid, right? Like, let's say he was just found. I don't know. He was a slave, but there was no mom. And it was like, oh, he's off the charts. And they said, well, who are your parents? I don't know. Then you ask the slave guy, where'd this kid come from? I found him, right? Like, I found him in the fucking wilderness or some shit.
He's
It's
got to
like,
have a mother. Jesus had a mother.
yes, that's what I'm saying, is if they just left a little bit of that off the nose, the whole other shit of it would have been cool. Um, I think, but they put it too far on the nose, and I was like, that's not okay. If you put it so far on the nose, it makes it less cool. If you have an
Let's say
allegory,
back in 1999, there wasn't a lot of people doing like a deconstruction, I guess I would call it, of the chosen one Jesus trope. Because
right,
it's like, oh, this is as if he like got corrupted. Like he is the chosen one, but he got this is a corruption story of the chosen one.
right.
Uh,
Actually, I disagree. That we'll get to that in number 3. Um,
okay.
but I just think it could have been. It was just too dramatic for me, and it was a
I
little
wouldn't have,
too.
I don't mean that to say that it would have been good. It's good because of that. I'm just saying that like back in 1999 there wasn't that
No,
many
you're right,
people
but I think
doing
that makes
that.
sense, right? You when you're writing
Yeah.
that, you don't think, is someone going to critique the fuck out of this and think about all the allegories I'm doing? Probably not, because I think audiences were much less mature back then, at
Yeah.
least in America. So it's like if audiences are less mature, they may not even notice it, right? You almost
I
have
don't
to
know.
like you
People
have to.
almost everybody noticed immediately. Wait, is he Jedi Jesus now? Oh, okay. Uh,
So yeah, I don't know. I thought that was a little bit. Then the second part in the exact same scene I also didn't like was the fact that he was like, "I got a blood sample. Check the midichlorians right now." And it was like, so magic god particles can just be checked in 8 seconds by a blood sample over the phone.
yeah.
That got me. And I'm not the guy. I'm really not the guy to bitch about little details like that normally. Like, it's very rare you're going to find me like, well,
They're
actually,
not magic.
my lore.
It's they're life forms. They're microscopic life forms that create life.
Yeah, he did explain that a little bit, and I was like, stop. I think if they would have left it alone, it would have been better. Um,
Yeah.
and this is again, like, and that's why I say it's in the same vein, this vein, same vein. English is
Yeah.
hard. In the same
Yeah.
vein of like, don't just blatantly call him Jedi Jesus without saying it, and then don't blatantly have this explanation of weird god particles or life particles that everyone has, but only some people have more of, or whatever. Because then, how does that mean force sensitive? It just, you convolute and muddle everything. If it's just the force exists and we found this baby and we don't know where he fucking came from, it looks like, well, he was just found in the wilderness. And then somebody can say that, right? A Jedi later on can say, well, in the prophecy, a boy would be born from the force. And it's like, oh, so this fucker was just magically put together by particles in the force. That's cool. And somebody can say, well, we don't know. You don't know his parents. He couldn't just came from nothing. And the fans could fight about it forever. But you would have given yourself, I think, an opening to just leave
Yeah.
this shit to
Definitely.
speculation.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so they dropped the
But he
ball,
didn't
I
want
think, on
that.
those two.
Yeah. So George Lucas didn't want that. He wanted the allegory to be very, very distinct. Oh yeah, this is Jesus, and he's gonna go on a dark path. Um.
Right, and I guess maybe that in a sense that's what he was going for, but I think that was still implied. That's why I guess we can get into this a little bit. It's a little foreshadowing about that whole dark side balance of the force thing. Um,
Mhm.
I think he is the chosen one, and I've said this before too, that like he's supposed to bring balance to the force. That makes sense. If you look at like a yin yang table or whatever, however scales, right? The Jedi were 98% of the weight. The Sith were 2% of the weight. Like, that's not balance. Like, nothing about that is balanced.
Oh,
Um,
according to George Lucas, the dark side is just like, or not the dark side, but he was supposed to destroy the Sith. That was the balance. That's what they meant.
really?
That yeah, just straight out of his mouth. That's what was
Then
said.
this ruins my whole theory and makes it just shitty writing.
Right? Yeah, that's all. I agree.
No, that's just shitty
But
writing. Then
but
fuck you.
he's changed his mind on so many different things that I feel like maybe it started out as that, and then he changed, and then he changed again, changed back.
Maybe.
So
Because that makes more sense to me. Because when you read prophecy and you read these things and you're with your human brain, like you just think this is right. You're gonna read a prophecy on what you think is right. Right? Like if we're going into battle and the prophecy says, and the holy goodness will be the victor of the battle or something. And you're like, see? Let's go kill those fuckers. We're going to win. The prophecy said so. And then you die because you're actually the bad guys. It's
a
like,
lot of people like, yeah, was it the what's it called? I know I've heard that theory by fans that, oh, he brought balance because there's only two Jedi's and two Sith at the end of the ship. Well, technically, no, if you include all of the expanded universe lore and stuff.
Right. Well,
By the movies, yes, but by the actual lore that exists that is canonical, there's several Jedi still in hiding. There's several Sith, or what you could kind of call Sith. They're technically not Sith. They're Force sensitives that work under the Sith. Whatever, they're Sith.
right,
Um,
right. No, but that's cool though. And the reason I think that's okay is because it wasn't about the balance of the exact number of people. I think it was the balance of power, um, and influence. It's like
yeah,
how much power are you using, right? Like because the Jedi were clearly using if the Force is like an energy that they share, which has kind of been explained in that way. Um, then they're using almost all of it. You know,
yeah.
the Sith didn't have any left. There was no juice. And it's like, well, if they have no juice and they kill this Jedi Order and they stop them from controlling everything, and they weed their numbers down, now it may be closer to 50%. Um, which is that's balance. You know, if there's Jedi across the universe, but they're not this crazy conglomerate that's
Trying to find, I'm trying to find his quote, but I just keep finding random other people talking about it. But it's like, um, it's like, Sith are like a cancerous tumor on the Force, trying to bend it to their will and control it. Destroying them means restoration of what the Force actually is. Think of the Force as a river. The Jedi are trying to learn about where that comes from. I guess, and like technically in the prequels, I guess you could still kind of bend it and make sense that him killing the Jedi makes sense because the Jedi are basically not truly understanding the Force. They're using it like kind of like the Sith, and
yeah, they were just
they talk
cops.
about yeah they even make a reference to it in episode 3, where he says, "Are they not the same? Are they basically not also just using it for their own wills?"
Yeah,
Uh,
they were literally Republic lapdogs. Look at what
it
happens in
makes
the
sense.
episode 1. They send two
Yeah.
two Jedi to go take out the Federation.
I mean, even look at the Jedi in the original trilogy. Obi-Wan and Yoda tell Luke that he has to destroy his father. He has to kill his father. They're still using the Force as if it's a tool for them rather than trying to understand the Force.
Right.
Uh,
And that's
Luke
what
is
it
the only
is.
one that truly like is just trying to understand the Force. He doesn't want to use it to harm people or kill people.
Right.
Uh,
And that's why he gets caught up on both sides. He knows the good
exactly.
side, he knows the bad side.
The
He
good
follows
and the bad.
Palpatine, then he follows
Yeah.
whatever, and he comes back later and he's always had this dichotomy throughout his character arc. And
Hmm.
that's kind of what I like, you know? And it's also the teachings. The teachings aren't necessarily forced teachings. Like the idea
Yeah.
you can't have a girlfriend. That has nothing to do with the Force and has everything to do with human emotion.
Well, technically, you can have a girlfriend. It's the attachment that's forbidden.
But that's what I mean, right?
Like
But that's not a
the
Force problem. That's a if
yeah,
she breaks up with you, you'll use your powers and go fuck people up because it's too strong, right?
yeah, yeah,
That's a human emotion problem, not a Force problem. And he wanted to get rid of
exactly.
that. He wanted
Yeah,
to allow people to have their emotions, but to be stronger than them, and to be able to
yeah,
use the Force in whatever way it should be used.
exactly.
That's good. That's I always liked Anakin as a character, though. I really do. And we're gonna get to number
I
two
don't
and
know.
number three.
He was trying to learn the force power to bring his girlfriend back to life or to keep her from dying. So he did go
That is
the
true.
wrong path. Yeah,
And then he went to the dark side
he
because of the
ultimately
emotion.
did become a Sith because he was trying to he gave in to his emotions, yeah,
Yep,
his
and that's where he
attachment and
fell, and
stuff.
that's what Yoda told him that he would do if he had the emotions, which is why they think they have the moral high ground.
Yeah.
Because it's like, no, look, it happens. Not every time, but you're at risk. You
Yeah.
know, it's the same
They don't want
teachings.
the Jedi don't want the risk to exist at all, so they're like, "Hey, don't do this."
Right,
But
but that's not
yeah,
balance. That's not freedom. And it's funny, you can
yeah.
take that into actually our life theologies, help you understand your thoughts. But back to Anakin, yeah, I think he was fucking great all throughout. Even the stupid pear scene, I'm cool with it. Um, I love it. But anyway, then
What
we'll get
scene?
there.
What scene?
The pear.
Oh.
But we'll get there. We'll get to the number 2 and 3. But I think overall, we had to dive in a little bit because it was about the whole, Anakin Jesus and his being the chosen one and stuff. I really appreciated a lot of what they did with his character arc because it's well done and it showed there's so much fallacy in like the Jedi sometimes, and there's so much wrong with the Sith, and it's like that's the whole point. It's the balance. And I'm all about balance anyway. If you ask me anything, somehow balance will come out of my mouth before the discussion's over. Um, and it's like, so I'm all about that shit. So I think he did bring balance to the Force. And then it got fucked up again, which is what it does. And that's also representation of our lives to get super, dramatic and metaphorical. Is that's what we do. We try and find balance, and then it just goes out of fucking whack, and we fight to restore it, and then we get it for like a day, and then it goes out of whack. And I'm gonna exercise. You do good, you exercise, you do well, and then after a week or two, it's like, fuck, I'm tired of exercising. I want to go just fucking party. I'm gonna get drunk and eat junk food and eat pizza. Then you go do that, and then all weekend you feel like shit, and then you feel fat and gross, and then come Monday your back hurts or something, and something's wrong. And then it's like, well, fuck it, I'm just gonna go on a a shitty thing for 2 weeks, and it's like, god damn it, I'm shitty and fat and gross. What? Then you gotta bounce back and you gotta go exercise again.
Yeah.
Same shit. You're right. I'm gonna clean the house. I'm gonna go nuts. You clean the fucking house, super scrubbed, spot shine, and then you're like, fuck, I can't do this every day. I can't keep this up. So then it gets a little dirty. And then it's like, this is fine, a little bit. And then it gets more and more and more. And then it's gross. It's like, fuck. Then you fix it all the way to spot shine. It's like, we don't always have balance. But it's kind of a homeostasis or whatever you would call it we're searching for. And I like that. Because like you said, even in number 4, it's like, well, they still weren't in balance because Palpatine's doing bad shit. And then it's like
Yeah.
Vader's following him into the bad shit. But then Anakin's trying to do air quotes good shit by going around killing bad guys. So then neither one are on the opposite, and if you look, Vader is in the middle. That's what also, and they didn't plan the prequels at this point. That's what makes it so beautiful. Vader was a bad guy who didn't want to kill the good guys. And it's like, but he's a bad guy. He was in the middle on the opposite ends of the Force. If you look at Palpatine on one, Luke on the other, he was the middle ground. He's still bringing balance in a way. Because he killed Palpatine, but then he died to Luke. And it was like, well, I don't know. There's something there, man. There's something there.
He was force choking random people.
Well, by the end.
He's
Uh,
okay.
Number 3, yeah, or 6. I'm not in the beginning. No, he definitely was like a bad guy, but we do know that he was being manipulated and controlled by some degree.
Yeah.
That he made him like feel pain constantly to piss him off.
Yeah.
And like shit like that. His suit was designed to fuck him over.
That's later. That's like comic books and stuff like that. But I mean, sure.
Oh, I didn't know that. I thought it was like with the old shit. Like it'd
No,
been
it's not in the
more.
movie. It's like the
No,
comics.
okay. I didn't think it was in the movie. That's true. I wasn't saying that from movie, but I was saying that from extended lore. We brought that up a couple times. I thought
Yeah,
we were
extended
allowed
lore.
to use
Yeah,
that.
yeah, it makes sense with the extended lore, but I'm just saying that initially that wasn't. This is even before. Actually, is this before? I don't know if it's before or after prequels that the suit was hurting him and stuff like that. Uh,
I don't know. And the question is now is how do we judge, right? Because to
yeah.
say, well, it turned out like this, but it wasn't planned. There's a lot of things that do that we
But
didn't
it's
know
so
about.
difficult. Like, oh, Star Wars is really good. You just don't get it. You don't know all this X, Y, and Z. Well, it never said that anywhere in the movie. Well, it's in the extended universe. Like, I
Right,
don't know. It doesn't fly with me. Uh,
right. Um, it has to be at least if it's, and I think that's why you're right. We should draw some kind of line because if it's believable, I'll allow it to play a factor in saying, yeah, that's kind of cool. But if it's the entire point, I think that's not fair.
yeah,
Like, because this is to me is it's a branch out that helps explain something in the movie that was a little relevant. Because even if it did sound like he was fucking struggling to breathe, uh,
yeah,
so you
it
could
did.
tell at least there was some sort of pain in the movies. It looked like.
Yeah. Well, I
So
just thought it was like even when I was growing up, I just thought it was just because he's been so fucking battle fucking tested. He's fought so many fucking people that he's accrued so much damage over the years, so many battle scars, and just like he's got some kind of breathing problem because of he got a
he got fucked up.
lightsaber through the chest or
Right.
something. Uh,
That
and
makes
survived.
sense.
He even said he lost to Obi-Wan the last time they fought. So that implies that he got defeated and Obi-Wan walked away like thinking
Unscathed.
he killed him. Yeah.
Right. That makes sense. So that's why I say if we can tie it in and it's believable enough with enough canon in the movie to make it like, oh, it's an auxiliary, we can kind of balance it out. I
Yeah.
think I'm okay with bringing stuff like that in, but you're right. If it's like, well, no, because in the extended lore they did this and that wasn't shown at all in the movie, but in the background it probably was there. It's that's
It's good. It's good extra material when you're already invested.
right. That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah, if it's like, oh, well, this is already cool, but that makes it a little bit juicier, that's
Yeah.
fine. But not just this other point that was never established or never in the movies can be brought up. At
Yeah.
least within context of how you judge it, maybe because we've brought up a couple things that were completely outside of it.
Yeah.
but they did in a sense kind of enhance. I don't, there's it's a line. We gotta figure it out, but we'll figure it out. But anyway, so yeah, I think that he was well done. I think he did bring balance to the Force eventually. I was grasping a bit with how I was representing him in number six, but I think that it's okay to grasp a little bit, just because it's what all the fucking shitters
Well,
do.
by the time six came around, they were already like, oh, he's struggling with being good because we're gonna make Luke bring him to the light.
Right.
So at that point, they were already trying to write Darth Vader in a way to be like, oh, he's kind of just gray. He's a little more towards the dark side, but he has his goodness still in him. Because even
That
in
actually, that's the
Luke,
quote. I know there is good in you. Woo!
yeah. So
I
like
love
at
that
that
quote.
point, yes, that's why Episode six makes sense to portray him that way. But like Episode four, no, no, zero. Because at that point, they weren't even sure if they were gonna make him Luke's dad or not.
Yes, I'll agree
And
with you on that one. I agree with you
yeah,
on that
and
one. I was making this based on that.
Episode five, I think there it was a little more, yeah, to make him not kill Luke or Leia or Han or
Right.
Chewie. He's
He
just
did
yeah,
ask him to join him.
yeah.
He wasn't malicious in those scenes.
That was his son. He wanted him to join him anyways. Well, you can overthrow the Emperor. You can rule the galaxy as father and son. He was still kind of evil, but he wanted his son to be at his side. Uh,
Right, right. But do you think what did he mean by rule? And this is, I guess, again grasping, but I wonder what he meant by rule.
maybe you can't really go one way or the other with that one because
Right, and that's
there's
what I'm
no,
saying. There's no
yeah,
evidence or nothing, and that's why I say it's a
yeah.
little graspy. But it was like I wonder if maybe he just was like, because he wanted to overthrow the emperor, but why? That would lead me to believe that he didn't like the emperor's policies,
Maybe.
and the emperor was a shitter. So that's kind of what I'm thinking. That's where this kind of stems from. Is like, well, if he didn't like the emperor and the way he did things, the emperor was a complete shit. So maybe he wanted to lighten things up a little bit. Like he wanted to be
I
the
mean,
ruler.
maybe he already knew that the Emperor wanted to replace him. I mean, Episode six, the Emperor was trying to get him to fight uh Luke, and then the winner would be his new apprentice.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah, yeah, yeah. Maybe it was like, yeah, he's like,
he's like,
this
well,
fucker
if I
wants to
just
kill me.
overthrow the Emperor and then have my son as my apprentice, my son won't ever betray me.
Right,
So
right. That's true. You could take it that way because yeah, I never
I'm
thought
not
about
gonna
that.
go into the whole lore of the Rule of Two because that it wasn't established in pre.
No, I don't
Uh,
believe that either because look at Dooku, even in number
yeah,
one,
no, number two.
or oh yeah, number two. Sorry. Well, I guess I meant number one because Dooku was alive and being Sithy-ish.
Yeah, yeah, sort
Um,
of. Yeah,
but no, he wasn't. And that's what the weird thing you said earlier. It's like they're force sensitive, but they do kind of bad things, but they're not Sith because there's only two. That's always been ambiguous, and I'm not a big fan of that rule.
yeah.
Um,
Always two there are. Never more.
right.
Never
It's a
less.
bit contrived. Now, I
Wait, what do you
think,
mean never less? What if one dies? Come on, Yoda.
right. Now this is the thing though, because they keep him in the background. They keep him in the back burner.
Yeah.
But this is
Or
also
even
the
like
question of
Starkiller. Starkiller was his name Starkiller? Yeah, the Vader's apprentice from the fucking video games. Uh,
yeah.
yeah. He was like Vader's apprentice, but then but he never overthrew the Emperor, and then he tried to kill Starkiller. I don't remember. I didn't finish the first game.
Right. But no, yeah, stuff
But
like that. It's so I think it's like there's guys waiting in the wings,
yeah,
and I imagine this rule of two comes from the fact that there's hidden knowledge that
yeah,
only the top of the top have, and that's where it comes from. Because I still do buy the idea that they share power, right? That like when they're drawing on the dark side of the Force, that the more Sith that are drawing on it are taking power from the others.
yeah,
I like that idea lore wise because in conceptually, because it makes sense why they'd be bad guys or why they would
yeah,
do that. If you're a bad guy and you find other bad guys, the more you get, the merrier. Go kill all the good guys. You know, like having more dudes on your side is a good thing. So I think it's well written in that sense. That's like, oh, here's why they don't have as much bad guys because they're taking their shit from them, and that's why they hold back the secret information. Uh, but that's you can go either way with that. I
I
think
think
as
Star
far
Wars
as
was a mistake. We're going so far into like so much of the lore.
I love it, dude. This is it. I love this series so much.
Yeah.
We're almost done with the movie. I think we're about halfway there, maybe
Are we?
close. At
I
least
mean,
my
yeah, the pod
notes.
racing doesn't count. We're just skip that, right?
No,
Uh,
we can gloss over it though, because everyone knows it's fucking awesome.
what are you talking about?
Yeah, whatever, dude. The pod racing is fucking cool. The only thing I will say about it is that the one thing I didn't understand is he snapped that little thing off, but it had been snapped off since the beginning, and it didn't cause a problem until the very end.
Yeah, when it fell off completely. It was still slightly connected.
Right.
Uh,
So I don't know if that felt weird to me. I was like, what? Um, and then of course, like I guess the fact that he got like a 20-second delay, and then somehow caught back up to these fuckers. I was like, well, his pod has to be at least 10 times faster than all of theirs. So
He
this
did
race
have,
is over.
yeah.
Which I get it for. I'm not gonna nitpick that because it's dramatic effect, and this is why I said earlier I don't normally care, but I did notice it. It's something I'm not gonna critique because they had to have dramatic effect. But
Yeah.
you do got to write it a little bit better than that, maybe, because like
I
it's
feel
a
like the
bit.
pod racing was just a little too long though.
Um,
I know it's not watching fucking NASCAR long, but it
right,
damn
right.
near.
In all three laps, what
No
it was
offense to
every lap.
NASCAR fans, but it's not my cup of tea.
I
Uh,
will say, yeah, I don't think it was super outrageously long, but I think if they cut one lap down, you could have got the same effect, right?
how many laps did they have? Like three?
Three. So because
Nah,
the
it
first
has to be
lap,
three.
Anakin's not really involved in the first lap. It shows Sebulba kill a couple dudes. He
Yeah.
goes around the
It's it's
corner,
it's it's so they can establish. Oh, look, Sebulba's a piece of shit. Here,
right,
look
and
at look at
then
look at him cheat. We already saw him cheat by fucking breaking his thing, but I don't know. Maybe. Uh,
well, it depends on what. It showed him being an aggressive driver. I don't think it's cheating because they have cameras on them. I think you're allowed to wreck them, or
well, I
else
mean, like he
he would have been
plays dirty.
disqualified.
I mean, that he just plays dirty because
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, playing dirty isn't the same as cheating. It's like, oh, you're a fucking dirty player, and who's gonna stop me? All
Right.
right,
So
so
that's allowed in the rules. But they showed the Tusken Raiders.
yeah,
They shot at him. Then the second lap, the Raid. I was like, dude, why the fucking Raiders? Of course they would shoot only the main character. The second lap, they fucking killed another dude.
yeah,
I was like, oh shit, they killed another dude. They're not supposed to do that. That's not in the script. um, so I thought that was cool that the Raiders were just fucking shooting anybody. It just happened to be Anakin the first go around. So they established that on round two. Then they showed his gap closing,
hmm
and then on round three, it showed the 1v1.
yeah.
So I think all three laps were kind of meaningful, and they did establish a sort of growth
I just feel
throughout the
like they were a
race.
little too long. They could have been cut a little shorter, I think.
It could be
Uh,
because I think overall people didn't care about that, right? I think most audiences they just care about the excitement and the explosions and the cool stuff.
they'd cut it just a smidge shorter, or they'd like the idea I had was that like during the pod racing scene, we could have been establishing like going cutting back and forth between um the pod race and I don't know, establishing the hell is his name? Maul and doing some character work with Maul in the movie. Like I don't know.
Well,
He
what
he
would you
just
do? He already had found them, right? Or he sent the probes.
yeah, but I'm talking about like in terms of like characterization, not like plot things that he's doing.
The most he would get was like what, sitting in a bar. Have you seen these people?
Yeah, but like you could write something. You don't have to just be like, oh, work off of what exists in the movie
No, I'm
currently.
thinking about. That's what I'm saying. I'm thinking that was a question, open ended, I guess.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
It
definitely.
challenged what you said, of course, I guess, because I would think, what do we do then to replace it? Because if we're gonna say it sucks, what do we jam in there to
I mean, I
make it
wouldn't
good?
completely replace it. You just cut back and forth. You've seen fucking shows and movies that do that. They'll be like have like an action scene or something, and they'll cut back and forth between the action scene and then like a slower scene where somebody's doing stuff.
No, I mean for him,
Um,
yeah. No, when I say replace it, I don't mean replace the race. I mean
I would
replace the
replace it with. I'm
downtime.
just saying that it that's what George Lucas should have done something with it because I have no. I'm not a big writer and doing some crazy lore heavy stuff.
Because he would have to either contact someone else to give some exposition,
Yeah.
which he was already talked to the
I'm not,
Emperor.
you're still working within the parameters of what is existing in the movie, but I'm saying he could have rewrote all of that and just had him,
Oh, so you mean from like the very beginning?
yeah, like planned out a better scene than just him fucking doing all that. Like that's all random work. There's no one for him to play off of. It's so like you're
Right, right, right.
literally not characterizing your character at all. He has no personality. We don't know anything about him.
And
And I
that's what
guess
I'm
maybe he
thinking.
wanted to make it a mystery, but he dies and nothing comes from it. Like he was menacing, sure, he was angry, but
He was cool as fuck.
he was
Oh,
he had the drip. He
he
just
did.
needed
Whew.
the fucking personality or
Exposition.
something or substance, something to
Right.
fucking trying to chew on the character, but he
Right.
doesn't have a character to speak of.
No, I like it, and I think what you're saying is true though, because this is why I say what you brought up is a good point. You're like he doesn't have any characterization, he has no ties.
Yeah,
That was my first thought. I said, well, if he's sitting in a bar talking to random people, where are they? That's not interesting. If we're gonna get more about him, he has to contact someone who's not the Emperor, because the Emperor told him his mission. They don't have a reason to speak right now, or else
yeah.
it'd feel very contrived. I said, but if he talks to what, his family? That's out of left field. We can't get that much lore in a 3-minute clip.
Yeah.
I was like, so he can't
What I'm
talk to
talking
them.
it was a bad planning from the start. There was
Right,
he
right.
wasn't it's like because you're still working within the parameters of what is it exists in the
No,
movie
I knew that.
currently.
I was saying that that's
Yeah,
But I
yeah,
was agreeing with what you said though about him not having
yeah,
characterization, and these are the
yeah,
examples I thought of that wouldn't work, and I'm just
yeah.
explaining why. So you're
Okay.
right. I'm agreeing with you. I'm just kind of explaining the thought process here is that if you try to replace it with that, that's a no go. But I think you could get away with, and this is, depends. The only way you get away with this is if he doesn't die at the end of the movie. But you could have him, let's say, meet an associate of his or somebody he
Hmm.
knows in like a bar or something, and then
It could
they
be
have a
man.
back and forth.
It could be fucking Django Fett and like leads up to it gives you hints of the what's coming up in the next movie and stuff
Right,
like
right.
that.
He
So
could meet somebody else from the universe, but then you
yeah,
have to guarantee you're going to expand it in that direction, or fans are going to get mad,
yeah.
and they may not have
So
known that they wanted to expand it to. Um,
yeah,
so
and I
that could
already
have been
know
an
it's
issue.
kind of like not terribly planned out, but he had a whole completely different script with a different name for episode 2, which was Jar Jar's Big Adventure or some shit like that.
I did
Uh,
hear that it was actually really interesting. You ever hear those theories about Jar Jar's a Sith Lord?
yeah, Darth Jar Jar, yeah, but like, it's never been confirmed by anyone.
No,
There's
but
like kind of hint, wink, wink by the voice of Jar Jar, but that's about it.
well, no. What I like
Uh,
about it is one of the things that I watched a little video on it. It's like 10 minutes, and I
yeah.
appreciate three things I think they said about it. Um, I'm not gonna grasp at like some of the things. Well, in this shot, he did this. I'm not gonna grasp at that. But it
Yeah.
was the big one for me was, um, fuck. It was about his positioning with the Senate and everything. I was like, huh,
Hmm.
that makes a lot of sense. And the fact that he's from the because also we're gonna get into this too. Where the
Yeah,
I don't
he's from Naboo, just like what the hell's his name?
Palpatine.
Palpatine.
And I don't
Yeah.
remember when did he come from Naboo?
He was
Like,
a senator for Naboo.
but see, I guess I don't remember him growing up there or nothing. Because when I remember his
'Cause we don't
story,
know he's already a senator for Naboo in episode 1.
right?
And
But I don't remember him in like the
all the
lore I read
senators
being from there.
it's not completely established that the senators are from the planet that they're representing,
Mhm.
but episode 2, the senator for Naboo is Padme. We know she's from Naboo. Episode 3, the senator for Naboo is Jar Jar, and we for damn sure know he's from Naboo.
Right,
So by process of elimination, he is, or the transitive property, my bad. He
yeah,
is he is also from Naboo.
right. And
Uh,
that's what I'm wondering is because if I remember his lore, and I don't know if the movies cared, but I think they should. It was like I feel like they said he was from a different planet. Then he killed both his parents, or him and his parents had a tumultuous relationship, and he was like
Tumultuous.
he was
Yeah.
running away all the time, and it was fucked up. And then he found Plagueis, and then Plagueis convinced him to kill his parents and run away with him.
Hmm.
And this is when he was young, and I was like, so he killed his parents and ran away with Plagueis. How the fuck does he end up there?
Maybe they planned the whole thing about taking the empire or the Republic over. So he takes him to Naboo and raises him on Naboo, and
Right,
Nabooans look exactly like fucking humans.
right, right. Makes
So
sense.
it's not hard to just be like, oh yeah, I'm from Naboo. And he was also probably young enough where Plagueis could teach him the Nabooan language, so that
Right,
he's more fluent in it. Um,
that makes sense.
and that
So that could be a way to
and that
think
could
about it.
explain why he's so fucking old by episode 1.
Right,
He's an emperor. He's a senator. He's so old. Like Padme is like really young when she's a senator.
right.
Jar Jar, I don't know how young he is, but he seems like he's pretty young.
Yeah, I'd say at least 25, maybe, but
Yeah,
at most.
yeah, yeah. So
Okay, that makes sense because I was thinking, I was like, where the fuck did he come from, and why is he randomly a senator for this very important fucking city or very important planet?
the planet's not that important, but yeah, it's
Well, I
pretty.
guess yeah, the planet's not important, but it was important for their trade thing they were setting up, and he
Yeah.
just happened to have grown up there. I was like, that seems a little fucking fishy.
Well, I mean, he nudged the Trade Federation into the direction of Naboo.
Oh, okay.
Because remember, it
So,
was his idea, and he told the Trade Federation to do it.
but it happened to be. It was because it was on the outskirts, though. It was that they were charging more. Like the
Well,
location of the planet was important.
Naboo isn't on the outskirts.
I thought it was. I thought it
Tatooine
was like
is.
that was part of the deal. It was like
No,
the taxes.
Tatooine was in the outskirts. The Naboo is not. I'm pretty sure. I
Maybe
can look it up real quick.
I thought the position of the planet mattered. That they were trying to tax more for like outer rim planets or whatever they called it.
The reason they picked it was because of how small it was, because they could easily surround it.
Maybe that was it. Either way,
Yeah,
we got a good explanation. I'll take it. 'Cause that does make sense because it was planned, obviously. Because at least I don't know. I'm not sure whose plan it was. I think it may have been Plagueis' plan because I know they were like
it's
in
in the middle rim,
middle. Okay.
so it's not in the outer rim.
But the outer is where
Um,
they it stops after the middle rim, right?
the Republic's like the Republic's reach is smaller the further out it goes.
And that's what I was thinking. So
Basically,
they were sort of on
yeah.
the edge of the Republic's control.
They're in
Um,
the middle. Yeah, they're the mid. There's the outer rim, the middle rim, and then the
because
inner
they don't
rim.
have any control over the outer, right?
No, they have
That's
they vaguely they technically control the outer rim,
right.
but not really, not in practice.
Right,
It's
because if you
like
look at like
yeah,
Tatooine, for example, it's like, oh, we don't fuck with
it's
them.
run
We
by the
don't.
Hutts. Yeah,
Right, yeah, we don't fuck with them at all. They have no business here. So that's why I'm
yeah,
thinking when I said outer, it's that planet was on the edge of their control, in a sense. That's what made it important because it was easy to like in the shadows, right? You couldn't have done
yeah,
that because even they were talking about we can't get someone there in time. Talking about like the negotiations, it'll take 2 days to get someone there to confirm these allegations. I think that was important that it was in the edge of like the shit. So they're not going to have like cameras set up. They're not going to have direct communication as easily. It's going to be easier to kind of lie and be mischievous at that ring or that edge. Um, and it plays into why the Federation would say this and why they were pissed about it is the idea, oh, well, we have to drive farther to give you shit, so you're going to have to pay more. And it's like, that's not fair. You know what I mean? And that would, but that's kind of their ground. I thought that was what they were saying too, was that it was
yeah.
like, oh, you're farther away, so you're gonna have to pay more. It's like you don't charge anybody else these rates. So I don't know. I had this headcanon, but maybe there was something they said, or maybe I misinterpreted. But either way, that's not important.
Yeah.
Either way, so he was there. He was kind of raised there. Also, Palpatine really is a sneaky fucker, and I love it.
I love how
Oh,
fucking joyful he is in that movie. Like, it's like I have been elected as one of the possible whatever the word is successors to the
right.
chancellor. so so giddy.
For me, it was all his other lines that got me. Every time he was like, it was like so perfectly planned. And I get it, that's the whole point. But god
Yeah,
damn, that fucker, everything he said, every word, he was like, oh, look, now we can see that they're just weak. There's nothing we can do. And I was like, don't say that. If you say that, she's going to get pissed and go do
forced
something.
persuasion on her.
No, I don't think it was. I don't think any of it was.
Yeah,
I think it was literally, she just was fucking, he just knew what to say, when to say it. Like, he's just a
yeah.
sneaky, conniving motherfucker, and he's so smooth. Because everything he said at every point, the Senate responded exactly how he knew they would, and he just
Hmm.
played her like a fiddle, dude. I was like, holy shit. Um, and look what he does to Anakin later on. Same shit.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
everything he says, I mean, look, they're probably going to do this next. And they do it, and it's like, no, you stupid fucker. That's not what's going on. But it looks like that. You know,
Yeah.
I love it. He's such a good bad guy for that. But anyway, back to the Jar Jar shit. This is a side story I want to get into because I don't want to bring it up later because Jar Jar's not, I guess, as important later ones.
Yeah.
It was a thing about Dooku that made sense, and that was the second piece. Was that it was a thing about Dooku that made sense to me when it come to that with Jar Jar. It was the fact that Dooku felt like he came out of nowhere and had no like basis with the plot.
Yeah.
Like he just kind of showed up, and it was like, oh, we're gonna write him in real quick. I think that his extended lore is fucking phenomenal. Do not get. I love his extended lore in the books.
Yeah. But like from episode 1 to episode 2, it feels like wait, where did this guy come from?
Right. So
Uh,
I like the big reveal if Jar Jar was gonna be a bad guy. It's like, oh, it makes sense. He was always in line with Palpatine somehow, and he became a senator by number 3, and it was important because that was part of their plan. And it was like, holy shit, that's really well done and well thought through. And it would have been cool if he would have had. I would have loved to see that transition, right? The transition from his voice changing, his fucking eyes look different. He puts his ears back or something. He's like super fucking intimidating.
yeah.
I think it would have been cool, but apparently the fan reaction was so bad. Like, I mean, it was so
I think it would
horrendously
have been
bad.
really good, even with the fan reaction to how bad Jar Jar was, like to see he's actually fucking evil. Oh my!
Right.
I always knew I hated that fucker. You know, people would have said that. I
Yeah, and
always
I think
knew
that
I
would have been
hated that fucker.
awesome.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have sold any less. I don't think it would have sold poorly. I think they would have came
No.
to see it.
Look how many people still went to go see episode 2 after Jar Jar.
Right. So it's like they were going to see it. They didn't know he wouldn't be in the movie as strongly or what. You know what I mean? They didn't know the plot line of him was going to change.
Exactly.
So I think that yeah,
Not
you
we're
should
not
have
we're
stuck
not
to
as
your guns.
connected to like the process of filmmaking as we are now. Like back then we were like in the dark until something came out almost.
True. That's also very true. We didn't have like internet that showed you who was casted or contracts that we could somehow find on the internet. Like
Exactly.
we wouldn't have known any of this. So yeah, no,
Yeah.
that makes a lot of sense. It would. I think they would. I would have liked if they went that direction. but I also really love the extended lore for
I
Dooku.
love Dooku and all his extended lore.
So
It's
like
really good
I'll
stuff.
take it, but I do think though I really didn't like Dooku on my first watch, so I'm excited to get to number two to see on a rewatch, knowing some of his extended lore, if I can try and force that in there a little bit and kind of say, oh, I like this more. But I didn't like him in my
Yeah,
first watch. I'll say that. Um, but yeah, no, Darth Maul is fucking sick. But I think we finished that kind of. But like he did need more. One thing I thought about when we were talking was that they could have given him a scene. It's completely throwaway, but it would have been cool to give him a scene just being ruthless as fuck and like killing somebody for information or something. Or like a bounty
yeah,
hunter challenges him and he just kills the fuck out of him or something. He's outnumbered 3-1. And
yeah,
like, that would be fucking sick. Just give him a little something. Also,
yeah.
his fight. I guess we're skipping. Let me try and keep on track. I only have a few notes left. Oh,
Oh,
dude. No, this is never mind. My notes skip here anyway. We're good. I didn't have much after that, I guess, because there wasn't much going on between them and when they fought. Between pod racing and them fighting, that's almost the next scene. So,
uh,
um,
yeah.
that's fucking sick. Is
Well, he frees Anakin and then he yeah. So
oh yeah, free England. Oh,
they
he
go.
left C-3PO behind.
Yeah,
How the fuck does that work?
we
Um,
get him back in episode 2.
do they where? How? When?
Anakin goes back to save his mom because she's being killed by the Tusken Raiders.
Oh, that's. I thought that's three.
No, that's 2.
Is it two? That's when he goes like evil, kind of.
I mean, he does kill all the Tusken Raiders there, and not just the men, but the women and the children too.
Right. So I thought he did it in the same film where he
No,
killed the
that was
younglings.
episode 2. Yeah,
Okay. That's
yeah,
really cool then.
that was before him and Padme get together for real, for real. Like,
Right.
she comforts him after he cries about killing all those people.
Which I
Uh,
like. I like that a lot. And again, I loved his his angstiness and his teenage moments in number two. I love it. But we'll get there.
I look at there. I'm not a big fan of
We'll
it.
get there.
Uh,
But anyway, so yeah, no, yeah, fucking their fight. No, there's the space battle.
after the pod racing, they fix their pod. Um, Qui-Gon frees Anakin, but not his mom, and then he leaves C-3PO, and they run into Maul, and they have like a little tiny skirmish.
Right, and then
Well,
he jumps
and
off and they leave.
they hop on to go to Coruscant. They take Anakin to go meet with the council. They and Padme,
Oh yeah,
or not Padme, but her decoy goes to talks with Palpatine and
right.
Valorum, trying to change Valorum's mind to come help out or
Oh
intervene.
oh oh, the dude, the grand champion, Terrence Stamp.
Yeah,
That's cool. He's so
yeah,
cool. When I seen him, I said, "It's the guy. It's him, the guy." I could not remember
yeah.
what the fuck he's ever played in my life, but I knew his face.
I used to get him and this other old guy, old
Sean Connery.
British actor confused together. Which one?
Sean Connery.
No.
Oh,
That's
'cause
not
I
the
confused
guy
him
who
too.
plays Alex in Clockwork Orange. He plays the bad guy Linderman in his name was Linderman. In Heroes.
Um,
So yeah.
yeah, so they go to
Uh,
Coruscant. There's the space battle, which was cool.
Yeah.
I guess the whole infiltration scene and everything was fine. No, the war.
Uh, they don't have the space battle yet.
The
They go
war
to
was
Coruscant. They
cool.
still try to convince Chancellor Valorum to do the thing. He gets ousted from power, and they're trying to revote a new chancellor. And that's when the queen or the decoy queen says, "I will not wait for politics. Fuck this. I'm out." Oh, I had this really cool idea. While I was watching it, that like this could have been a really good moment. I don't know. It was Anakin's whole plot with was like so unattached to the or uninvolved with the politics, and this could have been a really good moment for him to see how like to instill in his mind that democracy doesn't work, only action does.
Right.
Like I don't believe that, but I'm saying that could have been a really good uh
Right.
moment to
To
yeah,
help him
like
help ease his way into the dark side.
yeah. Because remember in the episode 2, out of nowhere, he says, "I think we should just force people to do whatever we tell them to do if it's right."
Right.
Yeah,
No, that's cool. I never thought about that.
yeah. But yeah, he's so uninvolved with the plot of the politics that it's just I'm like, no, we can't. Nah, you just somehow tied him together into that.
It's a
He even
small
hung out.
scene. It would have just
He,
taken
he
one scene. Hey, why are you doing that? Or what's going on?
yeah,
She
like
could just say,
he
"Oh, well,
was even
sometimes."
he was even with the handmaidens at one point. Whenever Qui-Gon was talking to them to the council about Anakin before
Right.
they brought him to, they were like, go with Padme, you're good. go with her.
Right, right.
And
And it could have
yeah,
just been, hey, why are we doing this, or what's going on? And she could say something
yeah,
soft and nice. Well, sometimes things
yeah,
don't get done the way you want, and people get hurt, so you have to force their hand.
exactly,
And it's like, ooh, okay, that's a good thing. Sometimes you got to do that. And he trusts her so much that would help shape his philosophy on life.
exactly. That would have been really good.
We'll just assume it happened off screen.
Okay, fair enough.
I'll take it.
Uh,
So yeah, so then they go back. They
yeah,
get
after
there.
that they go back to Naboo, and then the
The war
actual
was
war
really
happens.
cool,
Oh
and I
no,
somehow forgot
they
about
talk
it.
to the Gungans. That's when they get the alliance with the Gungans,
Right, which was
and then
cool.
yeah, and then from there that's when they start doing the attack on the Viceroy and all them. And then Anakin kills the mini Death Star is what I like to call it because it's one of those spaceships that's like blockading the fucking planet.
Right, the little droid,
But
the
it,
droid controller.
yeah, the droid control station. It's a circle. It's a spherical thing. So it's like it's kind of a Death Star.
He did say he
Uh,
did it on purpose. It's
yeah.
all about parody or whatever.
He said it all rhymes.
Rhyme, yeah.
Uh,
It's about doing the
yeah,
same thing again, kind of, or whatever. I was like, okay,
yeah.
cool. But yeah, so that was pretty cool. I liked staying in that cockpit, and R2 fucking turns that shit on. He's like, "Well, we're in the cockpit." I love R2, by
He
the way.
said, no, he
R2
told
is
me to stay in the cockpit. I'm doing that.
right. No, R2's so fucking awesome, and I always loved his personality. He's always so fucking courageous, but kind of sarcastic, and like I just love it. His balance between him and C-3PO, his balance and what he does to save people, like just all the
This is
time.
this is
R2's the best
slightly off
spot.
topic. Have you seen the deleted scenes in Episode 3 where Anakin talks like an astromech droid?
I haven't.
It's really bad.
That sounds
It's fun.
hilarious.
It's funny though. I was laughing my ass off when I seen those the first time. And he's like, after he's done beeping, Anakin says, like when they're asking him to move the elevator for them,
Hmm.
and Obi-Wan says, "I don't think that's what he said, Anakin." He said, "Yes, beep boop boop means up, and beep boop boop, boop means down."
Bro, I would have
But
loved if he did that,
they
like,
don't have
ironically.
Anakin. They don't have Anakin. They don't have Anakin say those things, like vocalize that. They just put R2D2 noises in the audio.
No, 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 no. I want it to be like, ironically, he does it. Oh, you don't understand? Boop, beep, boop, boop, bop.
Like he just mouths the beeps, and then you can tell they just put
Boo.
the sound effects from R2D2 in there.
I'm glad it's
Uh,
deleted scene, but they should have just done
yeah,
it natural. Because
like, yeah. If
he's
it was a human
sarcastic.
doing yeah, if it was a human did the noise, I think it would have been a lot better.
Yeah,
But
because he's a sarcastic fucker, and he always likes to fuck with Obi-Wan out anyway.
yeah,
So it'd have been funny. Oh, you don't understand droid? Beep, boop, boop, boop,
maybe
bop.
it's because they initially started with the mouthing instead of doing it would have been way smarter to make him just do the noise and then
Anyway.
edit the sound. Yeah,
Right.
edit the R2D2 noises if they don't like the way the human noise sounds.
Right,
It would have
right.
made more sense. But I think probably because it definitely looks like he's not vocalizing it. It looks more like he's mouthing it. So
Right, right. No, that makes
uh,
sense.
yeah,
But that
it
would have
looks
been really
unnatural.
funny.
It looks so unnatural. Yeah.
Right.
Uh,
But yes, the Star battle was cool, a little uneventful, but their Jedi battle was fucking disappointing, but really sick. One thing I think they didn't do very well was introduce the double-sided blade in like a really cool way.
that was the coolest fucking scene in the whole movie where he's like pulls out the blade and just and then the other side goes I
Right.
was like, oh my god.
It was cool, but it was a dramatic, cool pose, but we didn't get the shock of like him doing it in battle. That would have been.
Right.
But then the reason I say I'm actually a stickler, or not a stickler, I'm a comic book fucker right here. I guess I don't really normally fall in
You
that
want it to be
category.
established?
Huh?
You want it to be established or something?
No, 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 not established. I wanted it to
Oh.
be more exciting in the moment because when he shows when he makes that sword, at least the comic I was reading, I don't know canon or not, whatever. But in
Yeah.
the comic I was reading that showed where that came from, his master was kicking his ass constantly. And he was like, "You're unprepared for this. You're unprepared for that. You're unprepared." Blah, 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 and just like shit talking. But he was, not a bad master, I guess. But he was just shit talking him. So then he comes back and they're doing a little fight, and he's like, "Yeah, I got you again." And he presses the button and stabs that fucker through the chest with the other side that he didn't know was there.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
was like, holy shit!
I
When
would
read
say
that,
if there was like I mean, that could have been in the movie, right? Like,
yeah, that's what I'm
definitely,
thinking. It would have been a really
yeah.
cool way for him to kill what's his name, and he'll be like, What, or not kill him. I don't want him to die that way, but it would have been cool if they're fighting and we have the upper hand.
Qui-Gon? Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want him to kill Qui-Gon like that, but I want them to have an injury or something where it's like, holy shit, and they back up, and it's like, oh, we didn't know he could do that.
No, you know what would have been way better is if we got it prior to the scene of him fighting Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon. Like, remember when we were talking about him gathering information if they put in
and
a
he
scene
kills the dudes?
where he killed a guy like that, somebody fighting with some kind of like I don't know that fucking the weapons that are anti-lightsaber, whatever. Somebody was using one of those, and then he was like locked in a position, and then he pressed the button, and it just went down and killed the guy.
Yes.
And then during the fight with Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan, he's still fighting it with like a regular lightsaber. So we have the knowledge that it has another button, but Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon don't. I forget it's something irony, dramatic irony. That's what it's called.
Right.
So
they think they have the upper hand. They're talking shit. Like, because
yeah,
I can see Obi-Wan going, it's over.
We know. Holy fuck! No, you guys don't know about this.
Right.
Please.
Yeah, because I could see Obi-Wan. You know, it's 2v1. It's over. Just stop. And then they battle a little bit more, and then he does like a flippy dippy move and slices Qui-Gon's chest, and it's like, what the fuck? But then Qui-Gon can still fight, but he's injured. And then he does the killing blow midway through the fight, and then they keep going.
Yeah.
That would have been fucking sick.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's still good, though, but what I wanted to get to that fight that was really the best part is the beginning fight I thought was boring. Their beginning 2v1 was a little boring. The choreographed stuff was fine, but it wasn't like, holy shit. But as soon as they do the 1v1, like right after Qui-Gon, holy shit, the choreograph in that, or the fucking, oh my god, dude.
It's so much easier to choreograph a 1v1 than it is to choreograph multiple people.
It was insane. I was not literally, but almost literally on the edge of my seat. I actually leaned forward because it was so fucking cool. Every time they slashed, because it wasn't those weird slow slashes sometimes. It was like, boom, 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 back, flip, hit. I was like, holy shit, he's trying to kill him. It was good. It was more reminiscent of the things you'd see in modern day, I think, action stuff. I don't know what they do if they have like foam swords. I don't know how they get away with like the action being a lot more believable in modern day stuff. But because a lot of older films I see, their choreographed fights were a little more stiff.
They use like metal sticks in the Phantom Menace.
Right, so you can't actually go full force because if you accidentally hit somebody, you're gonna fuck them up.
Yeah.
So it's like, but I like, you know, it looked almost like that. That's what shocked me compared to the 2v1, how stiff it was. When they start going 1v1 in the beginning, I'm like, holy shit, this is real.
They were younger actors. I think they would have been fine.
Maybe.
Also, a lot of times they use stuntmen, and stuntmen, you know, they get paid to get hurt, so whatever.
That's true. But also, Maul didn't. I'm really actually unhappy. I'm going to give a little critique on this point. Maul, after kicking both of their asses and almost kicking his ass, which should have been easy. It's a fucking 1v1, not 2v1. You should be winning. But I'll give you the fact that Obi-Wan was angry and maybe he had more tapping into his dark side or more force power. I'll give you a little bit of that. But Maul didn't even defend himself when Obi-Wan jumped up.
Right.
Like, he grabs from across the room, the lightsaber, come to me, flies up in the air over his head, lands, and then stabs him. Like, what? What?
He didn't stab him, he slashed him.
Oh, whatever, same shit. Like, come on, dude. You did, like, no. Because the choreograph was so
defending himself, and then Obi-Wan blocked some of those things mid-air while flipping, it would have been way more impressive and cooler. So, like,
right,
you can still do it without making Maul look like a fucking weakling.
Right, have them do some kind of thing, or just have him overpower him, or so. You know, it's like what I love. If you want an allegory type shit, this is number 1. That was number 6. But I fucking love this the Talos.
Spoilers.
That was a Skyrim joke. That, you know, the fucker in the middle of Whiterun? The one religious crazy guy. I love Talos.
Yeah.
Every time I say that shit, it catches me. But the scene where Luke is fucking kicking his ass, and he just like fucking like bandit slash, or not slash, like baseball bat hit kill fucking.
He's literally swinging it like a baseball bat.
Like he just keep fucking going nuts. I was like, Jesus, Luke, calm down. You're gonna kill him. That shit was powerful because each time, like Vader's, you could tell he was struggling, and I was like, holy shit, dude. Yeah, no, I think it would have been cooler if he had something, because you could tell the emotional outburst was there, but it never got enacted with the way he was fighting. But I like that in a way because it showed he controlled his emotions even during the fight. Um,
He let the anger flow through him rather than overpower him.
um, maybe yeah, maybe that he was like channeling it in such a way that his movements were still very controlled.
He still had his master's teachings in his mind. It,
Right, and
it, it wasn't after it wasn't until Qui-Gon died that now he's being quote unquote corrupted by Yoda and turning more into a stricter Jedi. Uh,
let's see. Um, you mean like so far as when he came back and he said, "I'm gonna train the boy."
yeah,
Um,
and you can tell he's a lot more like a lot less. I mean, in tune with his emotions in the later, like not.
right, right.
Yeah,
I th-
he doesn't let that like his emotions like out or channel his stuff. He did when he was fighting Anakin though. Ooh. Uh,
right. And I like
and
that
that's
too. You're
why he
right.
won. That's why he beat Anakin. He let his emotions, or he let his emotions empower him, but without like fucking take him over.
Right. Well, and it was sadness too. It was like sadness, but it was anger because he was sad.
But it was, yeah, it was both. Both of those are negative
He was
emotions
like
that lead to that quote unquote lead to the dark side. But they're the reasons he won.
right, and it was because he was, he was like pissed, and that's I love how brotherly that became.
Yeah,
And we didn't talk about this. We're going to talk about this later in movies. This is a personal conversation. We'll get there. About their connection and their bond and shit. But you're right though. In that fight, it was so good. Speaking of anger and shit, dude, best line. One of the best lines in all of Star Wars. When fucking Yoda hits that shit. Um, about the fear leads to anger. Oh my
anger
god.
leads to hate.
And hate leads to suffering.
I do it all the time.
I love that shit, dude. It almost gives me chills listening to it. Like the fuck, man.
Fear leads to anger.
And you
Anger
watch
leads
it.
to hate. Hate leads to suffering.
Right, and the way he said it, it sounded like he was suffering, as if like he feels the pain when he watches a Jedi fall to the dark side, and he feels their suffering somehow. Well, I guess he would. He's in tune with their emotions. That's how he could see the fear in Anakin.
Yeah.
So that's what's so beautiful about it is you can tell how force sensitive. This is what I think makes Yoda cool. He always expresses his force powers in a way that it's not battle.
Yeah.
And I like that. He has very good foresight and like future seeing kind of things and very good
Yeah.
emotional perception. And I like that. That's really cool to show how he uses the force in some way. And that's why I think he was surviving after everything because he knows he's not about battle. He's about understanding the force, you know?
Yeah.
Um,
I know there's a lot of old heads that got mad when Yoda fought in episode two.
I liked it. Fuck them.
Yeah, no.
Because he has to have that in him. He is a Jedi. Um,
Yeah.
but he was an old man. And that's what made it cool. He did it and barely held on. It was like, Yoda, you're gonna fucking die. Stop fighting this guy. And it was cool, but it showed that he is a master in some way, and that's what I
Yeah.
like about it. He should be a master. Like, just because he focuses on his abilities as like a mental guy, doesn't he should be able to defend himself, and he went through the same training everyone else does.
Yeah.
Uh, fuck, I had something there. Speaking of Jedi
Oh, Yoda.
training, Obi-Wan fighting dark side.
That's DC. You didn't get it.
Fear. Nope, it's
Anger
gone.
leads to hate.
Um, it's gone. Whatever it was, but maybe
Was
it's
it?
there. It's still there, but it's just so fucking close, but out of reach. So it's like I want to leave it alone, but it's like I can't. Um, we'll move
Is it
on.
Yoda? Is it Yoda related?
Maybe because it was in a similar vein. Obi-Wan related, Yoda related, them.
Darkness, letting their
Yeah,
emotions, controlling their emotions.
right.
Yoda being force sensitive, under being so in tune with other people's emotions. He survived because of that.
Right, which makes you think he's part of the balance. That's why he was allowed to live in a way. If like the prophecy stuff.
Yeah.
But no, it was something with the prequels, something with Obi-Wan,
No,
maybe.
he no, he was allowed to live because he's in the original trilogy, Trey.
I mean, technically, yeah. But I think canonically it still makes sense. Oh yeah,
Yeah, no, I'm
Yoda
dicking
fighting.
around.
It
Oh,
was Yoda fighting. It was about another thing. It was tied to the Jar Jar thing. It was he was like, if you look at what Yoda is and what Jar Jar is, they're very similar. That if you look, it was like Yoda is, not mythical, but like a beast, not a alienish. It's different. There's a
He's a
non-human,
weird. Yeah,
non-human animalistic companion or whatever that follows someone around, and but secretly is a supermaster. Right when he finds someone like in six
yeah,
or five,
yeah.
four. Sorry. Um, when he find
5. He
was it
doesn't
five?
find him in 4. He's not in 4. Yeah,
Okay, yeah. So when he finds him in five, the way that he found him in five, he's like bumped into a thing or something stranger, wild, wacky, kooky in a swamp. Then he looks
yeah,
at how you were introduced to Jar Jar, and I was like, oh, okay, I'm following you. And he was like, oh, then look at their way they take place. He was like the battle between him and Jar Jar as the antithesis of what he was to him is what he is to Palpatine. It's like he's this bumbling, wacky whatever guy, but then that's the dark side version of Yoda, essentially. That's what they were
yeah,
kind of he was potentially leading that up to, which is why I give a little bit, almost a lot of
yeah.
credence to this
Yeah.
theory, because
I do believe it. I just and I do like it. It's just not ultimately where we're going. So
right, right.
yeah,
But that was kind of my last thoughts on that theory. That was my third
yeah,
point because I mentioned earlier I had like 3 points.
yeah.
That one finally
I
came
like that
back.
video. I just yeah, it's been a long time. So
But yeah, those three reasons. The other stuff is circumstantial at best. I'm not going to go that far. But
yeah, a
those
lot
three
of the
reasons,
filming stuff, the
um,
jumping, the oh he's using
right,
force jump here. All
right,
right,
or
good.
oh look, he's force controlling this guy by waving his hand. He talks with his
Yeah,
hand. I'll take that either way. That's a take it or leave it for me. But that's not like conclusive evidence.
yeah,
But definitely the other three I'd mentioned. It's enough for me because that would have been the battle that would have took place. Is those two side character human or anti-humanoid whatever masters that
yeah,
are kooky. But Yoda wasn't
and
kooky back then. But I think that's the whole point. It was supposed to be this allegory for him
yeah,
being kooky in number five.
yeah.
Um,
It's supposed to rhyme, as it
yeah, the
were.
kind of thing, and that's what
Uh,
makes it more credence because you can see how on the nose some of his rhyming is.
yeah, and yeah, it makes sense. And then Jar Jar would be the guy we fight. Like in place of Dooku, it would have been Jar Jar who
Yes,
did the yeah, all that
and it
stuff.
would have been cool because then Palpatine's still around, the Emperor still lives, but then Jar Jar dies because he would have lost.
Well, I think he would have
Um,
died in maybe he would have died the same way Dooku would have in the beginning of 3.
maybe. But
Who
we,
knows?
we it would have been like a thing. I don't know if they would have involved him as much in the Senate stuff. Maybe.
Well, he wouldn't have been, I don't think, in the Senate.
Right. I
If he
think it
was,
would.
yeah, if he was going to be the big bad in the in number 2, uh,
Mm,
and the beginning big bad in number 3. I think I don't know if General Grievous was always planned or not, but
I'm fucking glad
uh,
he's there. Whew. He is my
yeah,
favorite bad guy out of all the Sith or bad guys. Period.
I
Fucking
like how he walks like a fucking troll, like a gremlin.
yeah, like the hunch over, like stompy.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, I fucking love it. Everything about that character is so fucking sick, except for how stupid they make him seem in Clone Wars. Um,
Oh, really? Okay.
not sometimes. It's not all the time, but there are times in the Clone Wars. It's like something bad is happening, and the droid's like, "Well, this is happening," and he's like, "Urgh!" And he just becomes like some brute. He's like, "Well, then do this," and it's like not a smart move.
Yeah,
I liked how imposing he was because he didn't seem like some kind of tactical genius, but he did seem like smart. You know, he seemed imposing, like he knew what the fuck he was doing. But I remember a couple scenes, and this is as a kid watching Teenager, so maybe it's lost to me. Maybe it's not that
yeah.
bad. Um, but I remember a couple scenes in Clone Wars where he just seemed like a bumbling bad guy, like, oh, I foiled again, kind of thing.
So I've been told, yeah, season 1 is not the greatest. So,
Mm-hmm.
uh, it's one of those that picks up after season 1.
Got you. But either way, yeah, he's fucking sick. I don't know. My favorite is because he's the easiest one to like say that because he's the fucking coolest.
Yeah, he
But
is.
maybe I'll have another favorite. I don't know, but that's easy for me. That's an easy pick because it's the most strong in my mind. Of no, that's my number one. But I'll probably come by on one of these videos after like Bad Batch or something and be like, oh, actually. So stay tuned for scenes from the next Trey changes his mind. It's a weekly series.
It is indeed.
um,
Uh,
but yeah, that's most of my notes. This movie is fucking sick. Um, but here's what my caveat was when I started the beginning, and it's to tie it all back to the beginning, was when I said Star Wars gets an unfair advantage sometimes. Is I think if you look objectively at the plot of this movie as a standalone, maybe a 6. Um, but in my head, I want to give it like a fucking 8.5.
uh,
So I
I'd
don't
give it
know.
like a 6.7, maybe.
8.5 is high. I'd say 8, but
I'd probably go with a 7.
So for me, it's like, but I say 6 objectively. So that's what I'm wondering. I'm like, so they go to a place, some stuff happens with the politics. They find a boy, they go back, they race, then they go to a battle, then the movie's over. You know, and that's
Yeah.
a weird, terrible way to describe it.
I mean, shit, you
But
can describe any movie that badly, and it
right.
sounds like a bad movie.
But when
Yeah.
I think about all the stuff they did individually, I was like, take Star Wars out of it, and how good is it? I think still pretty good. No, maybe it's still pretty good. I lied.
I
Because
think it's still good. I think
yeah,
I'd
because the
still watch
drama,
it.
the politic drama was pretty good. The fights were going to be good regardless without Force stuff. Um, because I'm trying to do it the same way I did X-Men, right? Or X-Men 2, I felt like was weak as fuck. If you took out all the X-Men skins,
Yeah.
it was just a standard action movie. So I was trying to think of this one in the same way, but it's hard. Everything about it is so Star Wars and so ingrained that it makes it fucking cool, and I can't really separate it that well. Um, and that's why I said I don't know if it's a takeaway. You know, I don't know if it's unfair to take that stuff away. But I'm not sure. This movie's nuanced, man. I actually
Yeah.
can appreciate this
It's
discussion.
definitely has a lot of subtlety in it.
Right, this
That
movie's a lot more nuanced, and I appreciate it.
as for as much shit that's on the nose, it has a lot of subtlety in it.
Right, and after our discussion today, I appreciate it a lot more than I did in the beginning
Yeah.
because I remember thinking this was the weakest one out of the first 6. Um, because I remember how fucking awesome number 2 was. Because Mace Windu's doing fights, they have the huge battle in that one place. Then fucking Mandalorian, well not him, but I guess not the guy.
I need to rewatch it. I do need to rewatch number 2 because it is still at the I think the bottom of the originals of prequels and original 3.
Oh
Um
really?
yeah.
It was
I
so
definitely like
action packed and
I
cool.
definitely like Phantom Menace over Clone Wars or Attack of the Clones.
Right. Yeah. So
Uh
for me, that's why I say I'm glad we can get to this rewatch because right now it's
uh
almost like I want to lean towards number 1 as being maybe more gooder than number 2.
Gooder.
But I don't know
uh,
because number 2 I think still in my memory is action fucking awesome. Like
yeah, it has a lot
it's
of
just
action.
really, and it also has cool lore. And I think number 2, the very beginning is when they're going to the clone planet, right?
No.
No, is that 3?
No, number 2 starts with it's the clone planet is in number 2, but it's not the
Okay.
very beginning.
Okay.
It's a yeah, that's it. We'll talk about it if we do
Right.
episode 2.
But
But
I remember that was fucking awesome, right?
yeah,
That shit was cool because yeah, if it's not in our records, it doesn't exist. That
yeah.
line was sick. So like shit like that. It had lore, it had action, it had everything. And I remember number 1 was like boring.
Yo, fuck that library lady.
Um,
I'm also mad at that library lady because she was the fucking one that showed up in that Darth Vader fucking comic book. Everybody was so excited. Who is this person? Who is this enemy that that he's gonna fight at the end of the storyline? And everybody was like, "Oh, it might be Mace Windu. It might be Obi-Wan. It might be Maul. I don't remember." But it was so many people. Everybody was speculating. It was random library lady who told Obi-Wan, "If it's not in our records, it does not exist."
bro,
Really?
that's funny.
She's the she's the fucking person he's fighting at the end of the storyline. Are
That's
you
kind of dumb.
serious?
That is kind of
Uh,
dumb because I liked her for being ignorant. That's what her role was to serve.
no, she was this crazy Jedi master apparently.
No,
Uh,
boo.
she
No.
she wasn't a Jedi master. She was a Jedi Sentinel.
Either
But
way, I don't like that because it was really nice because she was telling the truth, but even she didn't know about the cover up. That's what made it so good. That no
yeah,
one knew about the cover up. So she was telling the truth as far as she knew it. Like, boo.
Joe
Anyway,
Castanu is her name.
we will get to that one though.
Yeah,
But I do remember it being action packed and cool, whereas I remember number 1 being boring. So I think
yeah.
based on my action, fun, super engaging scale, I think I'll still give it to number 2 and especially number 3. Whoo, baby. Um,
Number 3 is the best of the prequels, hands down. There's no
right.
way like
And it
you
had
can
the most
argue with it.
drama too. It's a little unfair because all the drama that we've been building came to
It's the
conclusion.
climax.
I
It's the
know.
climax of the
So,
fucking
but it's a
whole
little
thing.
unfair to give it that. You know what I mean? Like it does get brownie
I don't
points.
know,
That
fucking what was it? Return of the Jedi. I think I like that one less than A New Hope or Empire Strikes Back.
it depends. I like certain scenes, but those are the scenes that
There's
capitalize
a
on
lot
the
of scenes
drama.
I like in Empire or in Return of the Jedi, but overall, I prefer A New Hope over it.
I agree.
Uh,
I think it's because throughout it, like you mentioned, the little Ewok battle in the forest.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily care.
I love the Ewoks. I'll talk shit about that
Oh
fight,
no,
but I love the Ewoks.
they're
They're
fucking
fucking great.
great. Those adorable little shits. I love them.
I love the Ewoks. They're
Um,
amazing.
but I think about a lot of the stuff that happened throughout that movie. It was a bit like cleanup or whatever.
Yeah.
Because that was we're gonna save Han. Oh, and we got to go do this. And now there's a battle with the Ewoks, and it's like all this shit just kind of happens, but a lot of it isn't necessarily engaging throughout. It's just 10 minutes of hey, we're cleaning this up or we're establishing stuff for later. Whereas I think overall, number 4 and 5, throughout the entirety of the movie, it always felt like it was connected. Um, like
Yeah.
every shot, every scene, it's like, no, we're still doing this. We're still following. Drama's still taking place, or whatever you would call it. It's live. The scene is still live. Things are still moving per shot, per scene. Whereas sometimes it was like the movement in some of those 10-minute long scenes was, hey, we're going to go save Han. But it took
Yeah.
so long, you're not progressing any other plot line. What did I say about similar syndrome to X-Men 1? Was it 1? 1. 2.
Uh.
No, 3. 2. 2. It was 2.
Okay.
The Bobby Drake house and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Very similar concept. It's like, you have this thing. Well, we need to save Han to progress the story. Or we need to introduce more mutant racism or go meet up with Storm and them to progress the story.
Yeah.
So then you do it over the course of 10 minutes or so. Maybe not 10, but enough. Movie 10. The movies are longer, 3-minute shots, like an hour sometimes, depending on how it's filmed.
Yeah.
But it feels like it takes so long. But each individual step throughout that scene isn't progressing stuff. Whereas if you have a scene where it's like they're introducing Lando and stuff, every scene they're doing with Lando is still progressing the plot. It's like, well, we're going here. You're going there, but it's still involving Lando in your schemes, which is progressing his betrayal. So it's like you're building that in and of itself. Every scene that you're doing stuff with Solo, it's like you're doing stuff with him and building a relationship, but you're also defending against this, which after that's done leads into this next natural thing you're doing, and all throughout there's exposition. There's you know what I mean? I'm rambling.
Yeah.
Um, but
Love
yeah,
it.
a lot of number 3 had some of the best moments because of the climax, because of the finishing and the wrapping up of drama and stuff like that. So I don't know.
I was when you were mentioning Han about how they're wrapping up Return of the Jedi and they had to go save Han. I was gonna give you another fun fact, but I was like, wait, am I just making this up in my head with my own headcanon, or would this actually happen? But no,
Huh.
there was he was only contracted for the first 2 Star Wars movies.
Right. I did hear
And
that.
and him coming back for the third one was like kind of tenuous. So they were either they weren't sure if they're gonna bring him back in the
Right. I heard that
yeah.
he was supposed to stay dead at one point. I guess that's where the rumor
Yeah.
came from.
Yeah, 'cause they weren't sure if he was going to come back for Return of the Jedi. But then when he decided to come back, they were like, "All right, well, we got to go save Han in Return of the Jedi." Uh,
Right.
so
And I
that whole
had someone
plot
tell
there,
me that sucks. There's a critique of the movie I heard was, no, that shit
I,
sucks.
I
He,
wouldn't
he
call that a
should have
critique. I
stayed
love
dead.
that shit. I love whenever they incorporate something to do with like real life. Oh, this actor might not come back, or this, or hey, I don't like the way my suit feels. All right, we're gonna make that a scene in the movie, and it a lot of times it just feels natural. It's really good.
Right. And I thought it was fine. I don't remember that being like, ugh,
Yeah.
he's back. This is so anti-immersive.
They did save him so quickly though. Like, oh, we're gonna go save Han. Okay. And then yeah, he then ran into trouble. First Leia went in, she got captured, and then Luke went in, and then the plan was falling apart, but they ended up saving him by the end.
right. See, I liked it. I thought it was cool.
Yeah.
Um, but
He
yeah,
did a little
overall,
less in that movie. That's another reason, probably another reason why he's like, or that movie's so much lower in my thing, because I love Han.
right,
Uh, he's in it so much less, and he's way more like dynamic in Empire. Maybe why I like Empire so much. Uh,
right.
uh,
You know what I'm thinking about too, as far as these critiques I make to understand them more. I thought about the trash can scene and the whole stuff they were doing in what's it called on the station,
mhm.
and I was like, man, why is that good? Right? Because when I think about that, them being stuck in a fucking trash can has nothing to do with anything. It's a 5-minute scene that's just could
It's
be wasting
suspenseful.
time. But I was like, nah, because it shows them under pressure
Yeah,
together. And it shows he was like, "Get us out of here!" And somebody shoots. Whoever the fuck was it?
it was Han.
He was like, and she's like, "What the fuck is wrong with you?" That shit was great because it showed the level-headedness she has under pressure, It showed Luke,
and he panics under pressure.
right, and then Chewie's freaking the fuck out. You know what I mean? It was like it showed what they did and how she kept a cool head and like all those
Yeah.
things. And I was like, yo, I like that. And so, but I didn't think about this overtly. I've never had those thoughts every time I've ever watched that movie. So if you guys are thinking, oh wow, he just thinks about this stuff, no, I just
Oh,
watch and
that's
enjoy
me.
movies. That's why we have these discussions. Is because I watch and enjoy movies.
That's me when I watch movies.
Yeah, no, George does that. This is why I come to him for these conversations. This is our thing. Is I go watch a movie. I'm like, yeah, that movie was good, and then he's like, yeah, this and this. I'm like, huh. I never caught that, but I guess it makes sense. And then it opens my brain into like the gears start turning. um, and then I can make these thoughts on my own, but I don't do it overtly. I have to work at
Yeah.
it essentially. But yeah, that scene is so valuable because it does those things. Whereas a lot of other scenes you might see, like what is those Ewoks beating up on those speeders? What is that doing? Um, like, hey, we set the trap in the string and it knocked him off the speeder. What does that do? Um, it doesn't build character. It doesn't build. It's action. It's cool. It needs to be there. Don't get me wrong. If you're gonna have a battle, you need the shots of the battle happening.
Yeah, yeah.
But it needs to do something, like how they wove in the battle with I think it was number two. They wove the battle in a way that the characters were always involved and their motivations were involved somehow.
Yeah.
Like they're shooting us, but I'm going to save somebody. Well, what are you gonna do? You can't just run in there and do this. Well, I'm gonna do this. Well, then you're doing that, and this falls apart, and this, and it's like, but the characters themselves are somehow involved per shot, where it's like that matters in a way. Or they have to grow in some way. I don't know. Maybe it's not always true. The things I say are not always like a
Yeah.
hard and fast rule, but
There's a lot of just rule of cool like scenes that just happen. I would say, and a lot of them just, oh, this flows really well, and it's about it. Like Mad Max is one of my favorite movies,
uh,
the remake, and that there's a lot of scenes that's just look at these cool fucking trucks as the chase scene. It just builds more tension and uh stuff like that. And it's just well, I guess they are still doing something if they're building tension. Like, oh, look at this hurricane, or not a hurricane, fucking tornado, sand tornado. What the fuck was happening? Um,
right. And then you're
yeah,
building towards it. It's like, well, if they keep driving in this fashion, what's going to happen next?
yeah.
It
And
has
there's always
meaningful
something. Yeah,
implications to the plot if they crash or if they run into something or whatever.
yeah,
And I think that's also why I think the Gungan battle was fucking awesome. One, because it was cool, but two, because throughout that battle, it was very important. Now, as a plot device, it was a distraction to get them out of the palace.
yeah.
But they showed a lot more of the battle, and it was cool all the way throughout. Because you got more of Jar Jar, which is cool. I think it's a little fan servicey. Well, no one likes him, but I like him. So for me, it was a little fan servicey for Jar Jar, which is cool. But it showed how the Gungans fight, and it gave emphasis on their willingness to all just go die
Yeah.
for like some people that they just met recently. It showed their technology, which is cool. It showed their shield generators and how they worked, and it just showed about their culture. It was interesting in that way because it
It was
introduced
lore.
more.
It's fantasy. We like lore.
Yes, it was a little bit of lore. It was interesting, and it also built tension as holy shit, they're all gonna die because Anakin's
Yeah.
not there to save
It
them.
shows the threat of the Trade Federation. It shows their power. It shows the power of like the Gungans, and so these stuff are like important. Like definitely, it's a distraction. It's not, or not, not the distraction, but it's fluff, but it's meaningful fluff.
Yes,
It's
it's
stuff that
building
yeah,
the world.
yeah, exactly.
Because
In
then,
fantasy, that usually gets a pass.
right,
uh,
it has direct implications too. That if they don't get stopped, if Anakin can't do that, so it helps Anakin's involvement with him destroying like the droid control center.
yeah,
It
that's a
makes
whole. It
that
also it establishes what he needs to do. Hey, we need to stop these droids. Okay,
right. It gives
so.
weight to stopping the droids. If
Exactly.
it was just,
If
hey,
if
Anakin,
you
stop the
just saw,
droids.
yeah, if you just saw Anakin flying in and then he stopped the droids, but we didn't see the droids get stopped, well, what was the point?
Right, and you didn't see the threat level that they had up until that point. Um,
Exactly.
I think they could have done it a little bit better because they did make them surrender. Their orders were literally wipe them all out or some shit.
Yeah.
Then they just held them
I
hostage
give
by
up.
the end.
I give up.
That shit was funny. He was like, Jar Jar, you got to be a man of your character and fight back. Put him up. Okay, yes, I give up. That shit was the way he
He's
said
not Buma.
the fucking droids are funny. Put him up or whatever the fuck he said. Like,
Yeah, he says put him up.
that shit was great. But yeah, no, I think if they would have like shown some casualties, it is more of a kids movie ish.
It is definitely a kids
But
movie. Star
that
Wars is first and foremost a kids movie.
right, because
But
that tension would have been a lot better if they're actually dying while Anakin's trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
It would have been like, dude, Anakin, fucking hurry, they're dying. But that's like a little dark.
Yeah.
And I also think that the way Anakin saved them was happenstance. And if you did add that tension I'm talking about, you'd have to rewrite the way that he saved them. He would have
Yeah.
had to have been saving them purposefully, um, which he wasn't doing. He just
Yeah.
literally was like, "Oh, what do I do? I better stop in here. We're gonna die out here." Um, so he's just taking
Yeah.
shelter. Um,
Yeah.
and then he's like, "Oh fuck, there's droids in there. Go get them." So he starts shooting the droids that are coming to attack his ship. Never once was he trying to necessarily stop the droids on the ground.
Yeah. He didn't. No. Yeah.
So it's like he doesn't have tension on his side. So if you add tension on the people on the ground side, it doesn't correlate, and the tension is lost when you go back to the Anakin cuts. So then
Yeah.
it's going to feel really terrible on viewing. Um,
Mm.
so
Yeah.
I think overall you couldn't have done it that way unless you did both. Which okay, I take it back. I'm glad the way they did it is the way they did it. But I think you could have done it really cool if there was more tension on both sides. But that would require Anakin to have agency over destroying that, and he's a kid. Um, so that's kind of counterintuitive to the plot. So I don't think they could have done it that way realistically.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, the movie was good. I think there's a lot of subtext to it. The actiony bits are few and far between, which is why I think in my kid memory, 2 and 3 were way better.
Oh,
But
I just remember something I had an idea I had while I was watching the movie.
uh,
Anakin mentioned, I guess it may not have been established in the first movie, but we know, but with retroactively, we know that in episode 2 and 3, Anakin has visions of the future. It's not clear whether or not what the fuck is his name? Sidious is sending them to him,
right.
but uh, Anakin said he dreamed that he was a Jedi and he came back in time, or he came back to to free all the slaves. I was thinking to myself that maybe that was a possible future if Qui-Gon didn't die. That was his
Oh
future.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
cool. I never thought about
And
that
then
because he did say that.
when Qui-Gon died, it created this fear of loss in him, and then that drove his motivations for, the second and third movie. He was feared about losing his mom. She died, and then that just further
Right. At
like,
that point, he's
yeah,
losing
forced.
everything.
Yeah.
It's what he feels like anyway. You know, you lose
Yeah.
one, you lose
'Cause I
two.
always hate like, oh, this is destiny. This is going to happen the X way, but this way, I've always been a fan of like multiple paths and then decisions that people make are what causes the future to change.
Right,
Uh,
right.
I'm
Um,
always, yeah,
and I thought
for
about
that.
what you
That's
said
what.
about Qui-Gon. I was like, well, Qui-Gon wasn't that important to him, right? And I thought, no, that was. He was the everything. He never even spoke to Obi-Wan hardly.
Yeah,
Um, up until he said, "I'm going to train you." But
yeah,
you're a kid. Whoever you met first is the guy.
yeah,
He also, I think, out of respect, he knew that Qui-Gon was better in a sense.
yeah.
Maybe he
He knew
respected him more.
he was the master. Yeah, he's
Right.
the one he met too. He was the one that was on his planet talking to him the whole time.
Yes.
He's the one that freed him.
Yep. He was
Uh,
everything to him, kind of.
yeah.
So
All
maybe
he's
Obi-Wan
only
felt like
had
a weird step parent.
Yeah, but when Qui-Gon died, the only thing interaction he had with Obi-Wan was, "Oh, you're a Jedi too. Hello, nice to meet you." And he shook his hand. That was it.
Yeah. Um, fuck, man. Never thought about that. And then he had to move away from his family.
Yeah,
He had never been away from his parent, or so it's like that's going to be hard on him. And you could tell it was already hard for him the first time he left. He came back and said, "I'm not going to go. I'm not going to do it." You know.
then he
So
decides
then
to,
he
yeah,
lost Obi-Wan, who was like, I'm not gonna say his like surrogate father, but kind of. It felt like he was like
Qui-Gon.
his or
Yeah,
Qui-Gon, yeah. So Qui-Gon's like
yeah,
kind of like his new dad, his new father figure, his role model, and he was taken
yeah,
so quickly. And then it's like, well, now I lost my guy, my new father figure, and then now I've got Obi-Wan, who was much younger. Like there was a clear difference. So I don't think
yeah.
he would have been as willing or able to raise a child as
Obi-Wan's supposed
Qui-Gon.
to be like a teenager, right? He's supposed to be like in 17,
Uh,
18,
I figured him
and
22. Um,
maybe. I mean, the
uh,
actor was like 20, but
Got you.
22.
Canonically, I guess in lore wise, I figured he was around 22 because he
Yeah,
was too
'cause
old and too mature.
the actor was like 22, 20 something. So yeah, that makes sense. But I thought he was supposed to be a teenager
Oh,
because
you
he's
think
only
so?
supposed to be like 10, 12 years older than Anakin. So,
Oh, I guess yeah. In that regard, it doesn't make as much sense. But I guess behaviorally, it always made sense to me that he'd be in his like early 20s
yeah,
because he's a bit rambunctious, but not really. He knows the rules, but he's secure. You know, it seems like he's been around the block a few times, and he's not as brash or arrogant as he would have been if he was a little bit younger. Um,
Uh, in the they're 18 years apart.
Okay,
So I
so he could
lied.
have been. Um,
He was about 26.
right.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
cool. No, that makes sense. That's, I mean, a little bit
Yeah.
older than I thought it would have been, but yeah.
Yeah.
Um, but what would he know about raising a kid? You know?
Exactly. Yeah.
And he's not. I don't know if he has like Jedi parents or if he just lived at like a monastery kind of thing, like they did in Kotor.
Yeah.
I don't know how he lived, but I imagine that was Obi-Wan was kind of raising him. He said, "I'm going to train the boy." Well, I imagine he also teaches him etiquette, teaches him how to live, how to be. And I don't think he maybe wasn't
Okay, I think
prepared for that.
I have a bunch of fucking different dates. There's one saying he's 16 years younger. There's one saying he's 19 years younger. I don't care.
It's in the ballpark.
I don't feel. Yeah.
We'll give it a ballpark range, 17 to 19 years difference. But
Okay.
either way, yeah, I think that matters a lot. I never thought about it from that aspect. So he lost that, and then he's in a strange place trying to do his best, and he does his best. But maybe him and Obi-Wan weren't that connected for a while. But then he kind of got over that, Because he seems very healthy at the start of 2. And it's like, oh, yeah, see? He's doing well, he's healthy, but that never left. You know what I mean?
Okay, I lied. I can't do math. Yeah, it's 16 in each of these. Uh,
Oh, okay.
yeah, he's 15 to 16 years older than
Cool.
Anakin. So
So
he's
about 22.
yeah,
Okay.
is 25. Anakin was 9.
Anakin was 9? I thought he was like 8.
It might have been 8, but
That's still
he
that's still
would have been
24.
it would have been 24. Yeah, he would
I
have been
still can't do
24 at
math.
that. Yeah.
But what do you call it? Yeah, so it looks like he's healthy, I think, going into number 2. But then why wouldn't he have saved his parents already? Or mom.
Yeah.
It's like, so maybe he forgot about it, right?
Well, he was still a Padawan. He didn't have the freedom. The only reason he had freedom was because they gave him that to go protect Padme, but he still didn't have the freedom yet to do whatever he wanted. He still had to follow Obi-Wan around,
But
do
you think
everything Obi-Wan
Obi-Wan
told
wouldn't
him
have
to do.
like helped him, or?
He was still a Padawan. He wasn't a Jedi Knight yet.
But I mean, Obi-Wan, he wouldn't have been like, we're going here doing this.
I feel like he may have asked him to do it, but at that point, in my personal idea of Obi-Wan was already starting to become more like Yoda and less like Qui-Gon, and following more of the rules because he eventually becomes a master because
Right.
he actually does follow the rules, unlike Qui-Gon.
I see. And maybe he thought that's why Qui-Gon died, like you were saying. He changed his belief system. Qui-Gon's gone. Maybe Yoda's right. You know.
Yeah, and I
I,
mean
I
he was even trying. He even went to Yoda for advice on like controlling his emotions and shit. So maybe he was trying to be more like them rather than following his heart like Qui-Gon would have told
right,
him to
right.
do.
So when he asked about it, we'll do it later, Anakin. It's fine. You know. And
Yeah,
maybe that led like mistrust in a way.
yeah, maybe.
It's like, you don't care about my family. Like, you don't care about my mom. Like,
I
um,
mean, Obi-Wan never met his mom, so yeah.
fuck, that's
Checks out.
true. That's crazy.
Uh,
That's so deep. But you're right. Um, and it's like that probably built up some resentment in a way. And I wonder if he
maybe.
pushed it on. Maybe that's why it's like, you know what, Qui-Gon's better. If Qui-Gon were here, this would get done. If Qui-Gon were here, we would do this. If this happened, this. And he started to like distrust the council, because
Yeah,
I imagine he had to have brought it up with the council too, potentially.
maybe. I don't know.
And it's maybe
He,
not. I don't
I don't know.
know.
Maybe I don't think so because like Yoda and Mace Windu were like talking about how his thoughts were on his mother and all this stuff, and
They wouldn't let
it's
him
like
do it. You
yeah,
think?
yeah,
I
yeah. I
think
don't
that's
think they
their
would have.
fault though. If he would have went and
100%.
saved her, if he would have
Yeah,
just went and saved her, if they would have given it, because they have to barter, so they couldn't give him credits, but give him fucking hut coins. I don't know.
yeah.
Go get some hut coins, and just let him do it. You're the most influential fuckers. You are like the galaxy police.
But remember that in the Jedi teachings is about unattachment. And if he's gonna go save his mom, that's just gonna reinforce the attachment.
Yes,
Uh,
it's gonna be there regardless. So by
yeah.
letting her suffer and
But they're
die and keeping him
but they're
away,
trying to get rid of his attachments.
no, it's fucked
So
up.
yeah, that's why I was saying. That's what I was saying earlier that I don't think the Jedi were in the right, and it makes sense that he went to go kill them because they still they were too rigid. The Jedi rules weren't actually in line with the correct way of
Yeah, they weren't
being a
bringing
Jedi.
about peace or happiness. Like,
Yeah,
you let his
they were
mom
just
just
being
sit there and
they were
die.
just being a police force, and then ultimately became the military force of the Republic, rather than being a true peacekeepers, unassociated with any uh
Right.
actual like
Look at
yeah.
by the time number
But
3 rolls around, they're just dropping Jedi on planets and having them kill all the people.
exactly.
Well, mostly
They're
they're droids.
generals. They're called them generals. They're like General Kenobi.
Yeah, you're
Uh,
right. By number 3, they are a full military force. And then look at when he imagine. I know he's cool with it in most of the shows. So it's sort of a headcanon grasping. But look at what he could see with all the clones. Um,
mhm.
when you're going around killing droids, you can rationalize that they're droids. But when you're just watching people, real life people, be mass produced and die, and we're the good guys, why wouldn't we make droids? You know what I mean? Why are we sacrificing all this life? Why don't we have droids? And you
People
don't
are
think
better.
about it because they're already there, right? Like
Yeah.
they were already existed because of Dooku. So like the plan.
Droids can be shut down by destroying a droid tower.
Mm,
Humans
that's
can't.
true. There are benefits, I
Yeah.
guess, to that.
Yeah.
But you could see some of the negative
Also, they're
aspects.
mass-produced clones. What's the matter? And bro, if I tell you the fucking Clone Wars will make you fucking cry.
I believe it. Fuck. But yeah, this is good stuff, and we'll get into more of this on the next one. These are going to be long, but I think that's important. So we dove a lot into the other movies,
Did we
but
truly get on why it's called the Star War? Uh,
yeah, they're waging wars
uh,
across the stars. What do you mean?
oh, my bad.
To be fair, that wasn't the case in 4. Um, there was no war in Ba Sing Se in 4.
Technically, there was. There was a war going on
Oh,
between
was
the
it? Oh yeah, the
yeah
rebellion. They were called the rebellion.
yeah
Duh.
the
Okay.
rebels. Yeah.
Never mind. We just didn't see a lot of it. Versus like in number 1, 2, and 3, we see like active
Yeah.
troops.
Well,
Um,
yeah, see, because the other one is a rebellion, so we're part of these like freedom fighters. Whereas in number, also we're not even following actually following the freedom fighters. We're following a boy who just got off his fucking farm, and
and a bounty hunter.
this magic wizard, and then a smuggler and his muscle go
Right.
save a princess for some money, or at least in hopes of getting money from Alderaan. And then Alderaan got fucking blown up, so they're like, "Oh, where the fuck do we go? We gotta escape the Empire. They're trying to kill us."
Right.
So
So they got caught up. They weren't really a part of the rebellion,
exactly.
which is what I like.
Uh,
And we'll get into this. We gotta get into this. This is the next one. We'll get into there when we get to 4. But I like that's why I
yeah,
like Han Solo's character a lot. We can dive into his arc too throughout those.
yeah.
Um,
Love my
cool.
donut. Where have you been all day?
I guess that's good that we wrapped up.
Yeah,
This is a long one. Whew.
it was only like 2 hours.
This is 3. We're going on 2 hours 54 minutes. Good lord.
It'd be alright.
It will be all right because this is the talks we have to have. So hopefully you guys who are hanging out
Donut,
still,
say hello to the people.
hopefully you guys who like were chilling, you gained some knowledge, and I don't know.
Episode 1 doesn't suck that bad.
No, episode 1's actually really fucking good. There's a lot of subtext to it, and it's not actiony action like the other ones are. So if that's maybe that's why it gets a worse rap.
Yeah.
But
Our
yeah,
other our other catchphrase. It's not so bad.
no, it's not so bad. I think it's pretty good. I would say, but I say everything's pretty good.
Yeah.
I think I'm a little generous with my ratings sometimes, but I think it's
Yeah.
important because this is what we do. We discuss things for 3 hours and then we find out, oh yeah, this was good for this
I
reason.
generally like things that are in a world that I already enjoy.
That is a
Outside of
bias.
Boruto. Boruto sucks.
Fair. That's all I've heard from everyone. And these are Naruto fans, right? These are literally the diehard. I'll stab my leg for Naruto, and they
Dude,
said it
but the
sucks.
thing is, we're addicted. We need our fix regardless.
Right. But that's what's funny though. You know what I mean? You got like a crackhead and you give him some crack. This shit sucks. I don't even want to smoke it. What? You gotta have some bad stuff for that. Like, anyway,
But I
fucking
need it. I need to inject it between my toes.
right.
I
I'll
need my
see you
Naruto.
guys. The next one.
Uh,
Uh,
Peace.
I don't know. Fucking probably. I don't know when these will come out, but we'll figure it out. We'll do number 2,
Yeah.
and then we'll go
Numero
from there.
dos in a week.
Right.
Uh,
Love you
yeah.
guys.
Attack of the clones.
Yeah. Attack of the clones. The clones are attacking. Who
Who
are the
do they
clones?
attack?
Find out on next episode.